right, welcome back to the IMNerdpodcast, guys. I'm your host, Frazier, and I'm here with my co-host, Kenny. And
Actually, never mind. I won't say that.
Go ahead. No, say what you were going to say.
They call me a little pussy boy.
This is literally what he was saying before the call started, because I didn't know that you could change the nickname of people in your Discord server. So if you own the Discord server, if you're like the head honcho, head administrator, or whatever, you can just go and change people's nicknames. Now, the reason why this is even relevant is because I just found out that I could change my nickname in certain servers to be funny, which I did in Keegan's server, the E3 one, Really Big Yu-Gi-Oh! I changed my name in there to Bluffed Fader because of this guy who I played round one at RBET Moreno Valley, whose name is like Bluffed Knock. He is a fucking full-on character. So I beat him because he decided to not go for game and he thought I had Fader. And now my name is Bluffed Fader because I ended up winning. I ended up winning because he gave me extra turns and I ended up drawing Battle Fader and I won. And they were like, wow, you sacked him. You drew Fader off the top and all this other stuff. And I'm like, well, I shouldn't have had a turn. Like, it's not sacking if you gave me a turn. You could have gone for game earlier and I would have just died.
That's true. That's true. Also, yeah, I don't know.
So
I don't know. I don't know why. Why wouldn't you just? You got to get rid of Battle Fader somehow.
Yeah.
Right? I don't really know. What is waiting? I don't know.
Waiting only makes it worse. That's a concept that people just need to understand. The longer you wait, the more likely they will actually have the Gores or the Fader. But that's not even the main point. Let me back up a little bit. So I changed my name to Bluffed Fader last night because Stengo was like, "You're such a fucking boomer. You don't know how to work Discord." Because I changed my entire name.
True.
I changed my entire name on Discord to Bluffed Fader. So my name on Discord was no longer Frayway or Frazier or anything. It was Bluff Fader. And he was like, you could just change it to that in that server only. So I didn't know about nicknames at all. So that's the first step. The second step is that I then found out a second ago that because me and Kenny are the head honchos of the IMNerdpodcast Discord, that we can just change the name of anyone in the server. And he said, what is it? Something pussy boy? Like, what did you fucking decide that the nickname?
Little pussy boy.
Little pussy boy was what Kenny was ranting about. We could change anyone's nickname to in our Discord.
So I could just change your. Keep backing it up. Change your name to fucking Little Pussy Boy. So I've got two funny stories about this. Right?
Okay.
So the Critical Hit Plus Discord, which is the Discord for my Twitch channel. I've had that for however many years. I think I started Twitch in 2017. I want to say 2017 to 2018. So anyway, that Discord server is a thing. Blah blah blah. I made the server, so I'm like the number one. At the time, number one guy. I actually don't have the Discord account that made that server anymore, but that's neither here nor there. But at the time, I was the head guy, right? So now Ant is. So here's what ends up happening. You can make roles and all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah. And you can make certain roles where you can essentially make it so that people in your Discord can't change their nickname at all. Their name is just what it is, and stuff like that. So anybody that knows me knows that I love Disgaea. It's a great game. And if you don't know anything about Disgaea, there's these thing called prinnies. And prinnies are like these little penguins with peg legs. And they're forced to say the word dude at the end of all of their sentences. So they have to say like, hey, how you doing, dude? And
I love them too. My favorite part of that game.
I made a role called Prinny, and it would change your name color to blue. And if I gave you that role, you couldn't change your nickname, but I could change your nickname. So I would it would be like a punishment. I would like change someone's nickname to like something dude and then give them the Prinny role, and then they were stuck with it. There's nothing they could do about it.
That's some dictatorship right there.
And that's great. But then there was another time Ant got so fucking mad. I don't remember what I changed, but I changed Ant's nickname one time live on stream. Like we were just live on stream and me and Ant were like joke arguing. I changed his name. I don't remember what it was, but for now, let's just say it was Little Pussy Boy. I changed his name to Little Pussy Boy live on stream. And he got pissed. He was like, change it back. And I was like, what are you going to do about Little Pussy Boy? He was like, well, until Kenny changes it back, the stream is over. And he just went to the standby screen and muted everything. And he was like, I'm fucking done until you change it back.
I'm taking my ball and going home. Yeah, Anthony, he's very staunch. Gives me Taurus energy. I don't know when his actual birthday is, but that seems like some Taurus shit to do. Just really hard-headed, like, nope, I'm not moving until you do what I say. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Did you have another one, or was that
No, those were the two.
Okay. All right. So
anyway, keep backing it up. You're gonna be a Little Pussy Boy too.
I will not be a Little Pussy Boy. I'll just leave the server. I already said, like, if I'm a Little Pussy Boy, I will just leave. So
Boys left the chat.
This past weekend was RBET in Moreno Valley, California. I flew out on Friday. And the way this event even came about is that at Nationals, I met Keegan, the owner of the E3 Yu-Gi-Oh channel, and pretty much the biggest Yu-Gi tuber for Edison content. I met him for the first time at Nationals, and we had already done stuff with Keegan. Me and Kenny actually commentated RBET 2, I think it was, together with him.
And he was on the podcast.
And he was on the podcast, and it's crazy how long ago it's been, but it was in like the first 50 episodes, I want to say. Keegan was on there. So we had a relationship with him already, but I never actually met him. And when we met at Nationals, we busted up a little bit, and he was like, yo, if you and a true hero want to, you can come stay with me at Moreno Valley for the RBET in August. And this is back in, I think Nationals was in July, like early July, though, the first week of July. So I was like, well, I really wasn't planning on going, to be honest. But if you're offering us to just stay with you for free, like that's a really big deal, right? Like if you don't have to pay for hotel or Airbnb, like that cuts down the cost of traveling a lot. And not that cost has ever really deterred me from traveling somewhere unless it's egregious, especially California. I'm used to going to California. In fact, this was my 4th time going to Cali this year alone. It's just crazy. But once he said that, I was like, yo, I'm really enticed now because the pricing was amazing for this event. So first place was an ultra rare Darkened Dragon, the actual prize card, which I believe is valued around $2,000, maybe a little more. But it's at least a $2,000 first place prize. And then second gets a PS5, third gets a Nintendo Switch. There's also custom playmats, like cloth ones that were really nice. He showed them off on his stream. And then
those playmats look cool. I liked the design of them.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really, I didn't even know about them until I got back to my hotel room, and Stango or somebody was telling me about it in our group chat.
Yeah. He said they were like inspired by Spellgrounds.
Yes, they look like Spellground mats, and they have the nice little designs on them. They, like you said, look really, really good.
Yeah, it looked really nice. Shout outs to that.
Yes, so they got custom play mats. They got, I believe there were packs for like the lower, so it was top 16 cut, 8 rounds, top 16. So 12 rounds total, and this was a 1-day event. So this is important because I made a bet with Keegan. We'll get to that in a second. So there was like a lot of good prizes for this, especially if you made top 2, I would say, because that's where it was really top heavy. But then there was also a side event for a giant black rose dragon, the same one that I don't think Keegan is the one who bought it, but his friend bought it at Nationals from a true hero from Cairo, our friend, right before we left North Carolina. So that black rose dragon ended up getting sold to Keegan and his friend, who's apparently another Yu-Gi tuber. And yes, so that's what happened with that black rose. Then he decides at Moreno Valley, I'm going to, do the main event with the Dark End. But then at the same time, after a certain number of rounds, and most people have, not most people, but a lot of people have dropped, there will be another tournament that's pretty sizable prize pool as well. Well, I guess it's just really first. Oh, actually, only first got a prize. Let me be clear. This tournament, this side tournament, was just first place. And
that makes sense.
And this is what Konami does too. When they do a giant card event, it's just first. Like no one else gets a prize but first. So he did another event on the side, and it was the exact same entry fee as the main event. So the main event was $40, and the side event was also $40. So if you scrubbed and you played in this, you had to pay basically $80, which, to me, it's like, honestly, not really a big deal. If you're already traveling here and if you're a local, it's one thing. But if you're like me, who came from Philadelphia all the way on the East Coast, and when you look at the map, Pennsylvania is literally on the exact opposite side of the map from California. So I traveled all the way across the country, literally, to play in this thing. And to me, it's not even a big deal because I've traveled so much in my life to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I just love the game. And my competitive side has been completely reinvigorated by Edison format and all that stuff. But yeah, so Cairo was supposed to go as well, because Keegan invited both of us, and he made travel plans and everything. But then when it came down to it, the way it works with him is that he lives in Korea. Everyone knows that by now, I think. But Cairo lives in Korea, and he flies on standby because he has a family member that works for the airlines, and they're able to get him really, really cheap flights and deals because of that. So if you know anyone else who has family members who work in the airline industry, this is a thing where they can just get on any flight for like absurdly cheap. For example, to get to Nationals, it cost him $46 from Korea to get to Philadelphia. It was $46.
Which is absurd. But once again, the key word Frazier said earlier was you have to fly standby. And if you don't know what that means, let me explain, because I've done it and got screwed. Flying standby means you only get on the flight if there's an extra seat, basically.
Yes.
So you're not guaranteed a seat. You get a seat on the flight if there is an extra seat. So Cairo, our good friend, I've known him for years now. So in 2012, when I went to Evo, he hooked me up with those standby seats. And so I went to Vegas, no problem, in 2012. Awesome.
Yeah.
Went there, no problem. On the way home, however,
Oof.
I was
Worst time for it to happen too.
on standby, and I get there super fucking early. I don't get on that flight, don't get on the next flight. I end up, I get there at like, I think 7 a.m. I'm there all day, and then I have to sleep in the airport for one. So I literally spend a full 24 hours at the airport because there was no planes open for me. I'm there the next day. Afternoon comes, and there's finally a seat for me to get on. I get on the plane. I get on an empty seat. It's like 1 in the afternoon. I'm like, all right, I'm finally going home. Also, this was the same weekend, I think, one of the Spider-Man movies came out. I think it was probably the first Amazing Spider-Man, the one with Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
I think that movie came out, and me and my dad had seen all the Spider-Man movies in theaters together. And so I was like, I made plans with him when I get home, we'll go watch the Spider-Man movie. So anyway, I'm sitting on the plane. It's 1 a.m. Remember, I'm flying standby. And then I'm ready to go. I've been in the airport for like 36 hours.
So I want to say this real quick because I don't think we illicitly explained this, but like the way standby works is you need to be at the airport just waiting and hoping that you get on a flight. That is an important part of this. It's not like they'll call you and say, yo, we have an extra spot on this plane. You should make it over to the airport. Like you are in the airport just waiting in the fucking like the lobby area where, you know.
Yeah, and on the little seats, when they say like these people, military boards, this board.
Right.
First class boards, whatever. So you're just sitting there and they say like standby seating board or whatever.
Right.
And then you can board.
You're the last person essentially.
And so, 30 hours I'm there, however, and then...
That's awful, by the way.
Finally, well, it gets worse.
No way, bro.
I finally get to sit after being there for one full 24 hours. Then at 1 a.m., I get my seat, right? I'm sitting down. It's 1 p.m. afternoon. And then I'm sitting there, plane's getting ready to take off, everything. I'm comfortable. I'm like, finally, I'm going home. The flight attendant walks up to me. And she goes, hey, excuse me, we're going to have to ask you to get off the flight. And I was like, why?
Oh my God, bro.
She goes,
I don't even know how I would respond to that.
She goes, it's really, really hot today. And due to the heat conditions, the plane has to be under a certain weight. And so you have to get off the plane.
I'm sorry to laugh. Look, that's the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard. Because, bruh. Like literally, you are not enough to make this plane overheat. Like Kenny is skinny, y'all. I don't know. Like I know he's working out now.
This is 2012.
Yes.
So at the time, I was fully in shape still. Like I weighed 150 pounds, mate. And I told her, I was like, "You mean my 150 pounds?
Yeah, like
too much for the plane.
Get the actual fuck."
I asked her. She was like, "Yes, the plane has to be under a certain weight limit, and you have to get off the plane because it's too hot." And like what? And I just like
that is insane.
I'm like looking at her like there's no way. Like anyway, I end up having to get off the fucking plane after I'm finally on it after being in the airport for 30 plus hours, and then I'm waiting in the airport again. And then so the whole day passes again. Now it's nighttime. Again, I'm almost in there 48 hours, okay?
Kenny, there's no way. Are you? Is this real? Is this a real thing?
Oh, hold on. The first night, forgot about this. The first night I slept there, right? Now I have everything with me. I just have like my bag,
this is
right?
So ridiculous.
I have my bag with it's like a backpack and then and then like another carry-on. So I have 2 bags and that's everything. I don't put anything like I don't let white girls in LA steal my luggage.
You don't check your bag, essentially is what you're saying.
So anyway, my fucking backpack in the middle of the first night, the zipper popped. So I'm walking around, my backpack completely open. I got to get like string it shut. And I'm like sleeping, like huddling my backpack and shit. I tried to go buy a backpack and they were like $100 fucking because airport prices. And it was like $100 for like a plastic fucking JanSport.
Yeah. It was like absurd. One cost $20 on the outside world.
Yeah. So all of this is terrible. Anyway, I get to the night of this nighttime second day. And then I finally just crack and I go, I'm just buying a ticket raw. And I just raw bought a ticket. I was like, I'm not waiting anymore. I just bought a ticket raw. I think it was like fucking $1,500 too. They were like,
are you serious?
They juiced the hell, like, because I went and they just straight juiced me. It was over $1,000.
Oh, I can't, my God.
It was between 12 and 15. I don't remember exactly. And I did not want to pay that, but I also didn't want to fucking stay there.
Do you know?
I don't know, forever.
The first time I've ever spent over $1,000 on a flight was literally this year to go to Japan in 2 weeks from now when we're recording this. Like literally,
Bro, it was
this. And you're talking about 20. This happened in 2012, right?
This is in 2012. I was in fucking shambles.
11 years later,
goddamn shambles.
The first time I'm ever paying over $1,000 to fly anywhere in my life, and I've been out of the country multiple times. Now I'm going to Jamaica. I've gone to fucking Canada and Barcelona, Spain, Europe. Like I've been all over, and I've never paid over $1,000 to fly. So the fact that you spent that much in 2012, like holy shit, that's insane.
Rough. So I explained that whole story so that now Frazier, I know what happened, but now Frazier can explain to you basically what happened to Cairo. Because what happened to Cairo is essentially the same thing in a way, but he just didn't go wait for because there was no standby flights. And go ahead, Frazier, you got it.
Yeah. So standby, like again, you're waiting in the airport, praying to God. Give me 1 second. There's a fucking rubber ducky or whatever outside. There's a bird on my window, and I hate that. Why would it doesn't do this shit in the morning when birds normally would chirp. It starts chirping it is 6 p.m. right now. Why is there a bird outside of my room on my windowsill chirping?
Do you remember all that when Keenan would be like a French guy in a bathtub, and he'd be like,
yes.
like, oh, rubber ducky. Yes. Like the most racist French accent you could have.
Yes.
Just Keenan in a fucking bathtub. He's like 14 years old with a rubber ducky, just fucking ranting.
That's I feel like I'm being trolled because we lost Potato Head guy who used to derail our podcast, and now we picked up this fucking bird outside of my window that is so annoying. And I don't know if it's because they cut the tree down that used to be outside of my apartment. There used to be a tree directly outside, and they fucking cut the entire tree down, and now the birds just come because this is where their home used to be, and they just cry. Like they just come here and they fucking cry. And so right now there's a bird in the background, and it's just like doing its little bird song nonsense at 6 p.m. Again, insane. I actually think that it kind of stopped. So maybe I don't even have to go and scream at it right now. But so yeah, Cairo was supposed to go. It was supposed to be me, him, and Keegan. And I guess I didn't know this, but Keegan also has a friend. Monster Gamer is his Discord name. He's won an RBET with Blackwings in the past, and his real name is Gabe. They both live in Vegas. So Keenan and Gabe live in Vegas, and they drove down to California together, which is like a 3 to 4 hour drive for them. They said so, really, really not bad. But they invited me and Cairo. So Cairo tells us like the week of the event, because he never knows if he's going to be somewhere because of the standby thing until the week of. So he's like, well, listen, I could look at prices to book a ticket, or I could just do the standby thing. And so he checked for ticket prices, and they were $5,000. And I was like, well, that's obviously not happening. Like no one is flying to a tournament. First of all, the price for the tournament is $2,000. So like you can't even make your money back. You can't even make half of your money back. So that was just ridiculous. So $5,000. He was like, okay, so obviously buying a ticket is out. Then the second choice was just do the standby thing. And he said, for some strange reason, the week of August, whatever Moreno Valley was, August 18th, I think was the day of it or whatever, or the weekend of it. For whatever reason, all the flights from Korea to America were just loaded. Like they were just packed. Everyone wanted to fly to America that weekend for some strange reason. So there were no standby seats. And he tried to do a standby starting from Wednesday of that week. And still, there was just like nothing. So he gave up on that. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it. And so it was just going to be me, Keegan. And at the time, I thought it was just going to be me and Keegan. And I was like, oh, this can be kind of awkward because like two people who don't really know each other that well staying at an Airbnb together. Like, you know, it would be fine.
Just two people is awkward. Like last summer, when I went to Florida for that bachelor party, I didn't know anyone there but Raj, which is my sister's husband. But there was like 8 other people there. And just thinking about it, if it was just me and any one of those people, it would have been such an awkward fucking weekend. But the fact that there's 8 guys there, you kind of just end up playing off each other, and it's like
that's very necessary. I feel like to have a good time, because they say the more the merrier. That sentence is not just there for no reason. Like the more the merrier is very real. So I was expecting it to be at least me, Cairo, and Keegan. I thought we were gonna have a fantastic time together. Luckily, Gabe came, and Gabe ended up being a really fucking cool guy. So we had a great time. And so yeah, Cairo couldn't make it. He told us the week of. It was really, really sad, but like whatever, had to do what we got to do. So I flew out on Friday. I get there Friday morning. I get to the airport at like 10. I land in LA at like 10:30 a.m. And then Keegan is like, yo, my ETA is 11:15 a.m. to the airport to pick you up. So I was like, that's actually insane. Like I don't even have to wait that long. And honestly, the time it takes for you to get from LA, get your baggage, which, you know, I always check a bag. So I had to get my baggage anyway. By the time I got my bag, it was like 11 a.m. anyway, because it takes so long at LAX for your bag to actually come around the carousel. So by the time I got my bag, I walked outside and Keegan was calling me like, yo, we're down the street. We're at the LAX. We're driving down with traffic. It's terrible. We will pick you up in a second. But yeah, let me know like if where you are, like give me a landmark or something so I know where to stop at. So I was like, this is perfect. I literally got picked up from the airport. Then we drove to get food. I was so happy that he was hungry because I was starving. My flight from Philly was at, I think, 8 a.m. Philadelphia time. And then you go back 3 hours when you fly to California. So I ended up landing at like 10:30, 5-hour flight.
Real quick, do you have a specific food you crave when you're getting off of a plane?
So specifically in California, I do. California has, to me, the best hot chicken I've ever had in my life. And so I crave hot chicken now when I go to California. That's something that started last year. That wasn't a thing the prior year. I've been to Cali like pretty much every year for the last 10 years. Since Long Beach, California in 2012 was the first time I ever went. And that was for the biggest YCS to date. That was like 4,600 players. Since 2012, I've been to California basically every year of my life, at least once. And so, yeah, this was like the last year for some reason I decided to try hot chicken. I didn't even know this was a thing, like Nashville hot chicken or whatever. And I became addicted to it with my best friend Xavier. He was also on that trip with me when we first tried it together. And I was like, yo, this is insane. Like, it's so good. The fries you get with it are nuts because they're like seasoned fries, basically like crab fries. And hot chicken always comes with this orange looking sauce. I don't know what it's made of, but it's very, very good. And it kind of helps with the heat. Like it kind of dulls it a little bit, almost like it has something dairy in it. I wouldn't be surprised if it does because most sauces do, but it's very good. So to answer your question, I do crave hot chicken when I get to California because they have this place called Main Chick. Let me give you the recommendation. It's called Main Chick. Main Chick is the best hot chicken I've had in Cali. Now there's also Dave's Hot Chicken, which is a really big chain. And that one is not just in Cali. I think it's in many places, but Dave's Hot Chicken is also nuts. And that's the one that me, Keegan, and Gabe ended up getting in Cali for this Moreno Valley trip. So what do you crave when you get off a plane now?
For me, it's just, I'm really, really simple. I haven't eaten at as many like restaurants as you have.
Yeah. I'm a restaurateur, so
for me, it's just simple. For whatever reason, something about being in the airport makes me want Chick-fil-A.
Oh, that's totally fine. That is totally fine answer.
Who doesn't want Chick-fil-A all the time anyway? But there's there's certain things that kind of click. Like for example, if I'm driving around and I end up driving, if I'm like in a hood, I start wanting McDonald's. Something about being there. But something about being there, like, because the neighborhood I live in now isn't the hood, but I grew up in a hood.
Yeah,
and there's something about it feels nostalgic and going to get into McDonald's. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and McDonald's is good. Like I know that I haven't eaten it in like 11 plus years or whatever the number is now. Last time was literally over a decade ago. Like factually, I have not eaten McDonald's in over a decade, and McDonald's is still the number one fast food chain in the entire world, and the second is Starbucks, and the gap between 1 and 2 is not close. Just to be clear, for anyone who's wondering, if you Google,
it is pretty impressive that Starbucks made it to number 2, though.
Yeah, it was KFC for the longest time, I think. Them. Yeah. Because KFC was like in China and all of the Asian countries and stuff like that with McDonald's. Because McDonald's got the Asian market first, and that is a big fucking deal. Like once they got the Asian market, it was like, well, there's more people in Asia than anywhere else in the entire world, right? The density of humans in Asia is so many times more than everywhere else. So yeah, McDonald's is number one. McDonald's has always been number one, and the closest thing is Starbucks, but it's not even close. And then it just goes, it diminishes from there. The interesting thing is that I think Chick-fil-A is in the top 5. It might be top 10, but I think I know Chick-fil-A is actually in the top 10 at least. And I always said that that's impressive to me because they don't open on Sundays. Yeah. So they miss out on an entire day of sales because of their religious beliefs or whatever. So I think that that's really impressive that Chick-fil-A is in the conversation of top 10, basically fast food chains, period. And it's not even open all days of the week like every other one is.
This is a rant, but I think that Sunday thing, although I, probably originally actually for whatever religious reason they have, I think it also it ends up being a pretty smart marketing thing in a way because it creates scarcity. Like
natural scarcity.
I've been in situations where it's like Saturday and I go, I got to go to Chick-fil-A today because it's not open tomorrow.
Yep.
Even though I probably wasn't going to go there tomorrow anyway. But
it's
because
so
I
weird.
know it's closed on Sunday, I'm like, I gotta go to some Chick-fil-A today because it's closed tomorrow. And it's
Chick-fil-A gets so many buffs.
I've went and done that.
Chick-fil-A gets a lot of buffs. It's crazy because Chick-fil-A gets the scarcity buff that you're talking about, and then it gets the homophobe buff too. And both of them make the chicken taste insane. Like, honestly, the fact that you can't get it on Sunday, oftentimes on Sunday when you see a Chick-fil-A, you're like, oh shit, let's get Chick-fil-A. Then you realize it's Sunday and it gets buffed. Like the imagination of eating that chicken on Sunday makes you want it really bad. So then Monday you have to get it. Or like you said, if it's a Saturday and it's kind of late and you're wondering what you should eat, but you want something fast, but not like nasty and fast, something good and fast. And Chick-fil-A is definitely like a good and fast thing. You say, fuck it, it's Chick-fil-A Saturday because we can't get it on Sunday. So it gets that scarcity buff, but then it also gets the homophobe buff. Because let me tell you something. I know Chick-fil-A does not fuck with the gays, but I don't give a fuck. I already said that they can call me a nigger fag and I would absolutely be like, excuse me. And they'd be like, hey, nigger fag. And I'd be like, hey, can I get a number 2 with extra Chick-fil-A sauce, please? A large fry and lemonade. And they'd be like, would that be all? I'd be like, no, actually, I want a peach milkshake too. And they'd be like, is that all, nigger fag? And I'd be like, yes, that's all. So I love Chick-fil-A, okay? And there's nothing that those people can do to make me not eat that chicken. But yeah, the homophobe buff and the scarcity buff, they're nuts.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I get it. When you said Chick-fil-A, I was like, yeah, that's a...
Yeah, so now I don't know why, but for whatever reason, being in airports, I don't know why, it makes me think of Chick-fil-A and it makes me want Chick-fil-A whenever I'm in an airport.
Yeah. So we both of us want fried chicken is essentially what I'm getting from this. Like,
oh yeah.
There's something about airports and fried chicken is what I'm gathering.
That's not even a question.
Yes. So
I think it's also because like when you're on the plane, like plane food sucks.
Plane food. So you're just do you know how disappointed I am that I tried plane food for the first time? I want to say it was right before the pandemic, so probably 2019, maybe 2018 when I went to Jamaica. I tried plane food for the first time because I'd never get actual food on a plane. I always get snacks and shit. So I said, fuck it. Let me try to order an actual dinner meal that they have on the menu. And Kenny, it was one of the worst things I've ever tasted in my life. No shit. It was like a Salisbury steak that you got when you were a kid in fucking high school.
Cuisine?
Yes. 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 It was a fucking kid cuisine. If you know what that is, that's so cursed. Yo, kid cuisine is so accurate though. I can't even think of a word. It was a kid cuisine. The corn was all like, the corn was a color of yellow that corn is not naturally, and it had no season, no seasoning, no butter. It was just yellow corn. And then everything else on the fucking plate, not even plate, because they serve it in a kid cuisine little, you know the thing I'm talking about, the fucking container that kid cuisine comes in. They serve it to you in that as well, but it looked like they just unwrapped some shit that had the plastic on top, like a kid cuisine, threw it in the microwave, and brought it to my fucking section and said $36. That's what happened. And it was awful. It was honestly the worst food I ever had in my life. I ate one bite of everything on the tray, and then I didn't touch it, and I just sat there for the rest of the flight until they collected it. I'm really disappointed though. I'm really disappointed that like airplane food specifically is the most unplayable food I've ever had in my life. I would sooner eat an actual kid cuisine before I eat airport food or airplane food.
Yeah.
So yeah,
terrible.
That was the best way you could describe it though. I forgot about kid cuisine. Listen, if you're listening to this, you have no idea what the fuck we're talking about. Google kid cuisine and look at that food, because that is some shit that we all kind of grew up on. At least in our area, we all had one or two of those, and they are nothing special. But they always came with like a dessert or something. So
yeah.
But yeah, that shit is wild. So yeah, back to the story though. So I get picked up by Keegan, Gabe. We go to Dave's Hot Chicken. We get milkshakes, we get chicken and all this other shit. Really fire. And then we take the drive to Moreno Valley. I didn't know this before I booked my trip, but if Keegan wasn't picking me up, it was going to be a bad time because Moreno Valley's far as shit from LA. And I got dropped off in LAX. Like that's where my flight landed at. I didn't know that from LAX to Moreno Valley is anywhere from an hour and a half to 2+ hours, depending on LA traffic. And if you know anything about LA, you know that the traffic is typically awful, right? So luckily he picked me up and we drove there, but it took us about 2 hours to get from LAX, or from Dave's Hot Chicken, which is around the corner from LAX. It took us about 2 hours to get from LAX to our Airbnb. So that was miserable for the simple fact that like it was just a lot of driving, a lot of being in a car. Now, granted, it was still fun because we were just shooting the shit, talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! And we had this really interesting conversation about how much do you think Edison format equates in skill and luck? Like how much of the games do you think come down to RNG, and how much of it do you think comes down to luck? And Monster Gamer / Gabe was like, oh, I think it's like 80-20. And I was like, you're fucking smoking crack. There's no way it's that high. And that was 80-20 being 80% skill and 20% luck. I was like, I don't think it's close. I don't even think it's close to that. I was like, I don't know off the top of my head how much of Edison format do I think is skill versus luck, but I know for a damn fact that is nowhere near 80-20. I said it's probably closer to like 60-40, if anything, off the top of my head, and it might be worse than that. So they were like in agreement that it was 80-20, right? And I didn't bother to argue too much. But the weekend had a great way of proving me right, because Gabe ended up scrubbing out. Like, he lost round 1, and then I think he like lost early as well. So he came up to me later that day of the tournament. This is just to like skip ahead a little bit. He came up to me and was like, yeah, so you were right. I was like, right about what? He was like, it's not 80-20. I was like, yeah. I was like, there's no fucking way it's 80-20. Like, you think that you have control over 80% of your games based on just your skill? And this is also the whole like ego death thing. And Keegan brought this up too. Is like, well, do you think that you're skilled enough to make that 80% really count? My answer is yes, right? I'm a fucking godly Yu-Gi-Oh player. Like, no one can take that away from me. So if the question is, do you think that 80% skill, you can actually make use of that? If that's your question, then the answer is fucking yes. Like, if you're asking me that, then I do think that I have the 80% skill necessary to like do well at a tournament. I don't think that's really a question either, to be honest. Like, you could ask that to somebody else and maybe they have to hold that like, no, I'm not that skilled anyway, so I need more of the luck part. But I don't think I do. So yeah, by the end of the tournament, Gabe was like, it's not even close to 80-20. I realized, and I was like, how is it that this guy won an RBET, right? And he also is like, from talking to him, he seems like a pretty knowledgeable guy. He understands the game pretty well. I was like, how is it that at this very moment you realized this tournament was the one that made you realize that this format is not 80-20? Like, 80-20 is wild for anything. Just to be clear, 80-20 will make you top basically any event. That's just, so like, if you win 8 out of 10 rounds, right? That's you topping basically every event. Like, 8 out of 10 rounds is insane. Cut the top 32, which is what Konami does a lot of time. If you win 80% of your rounds, and then the other 20% is luck, so that could also just go your way too, right? Because just because you're really skilled doesn't mean that you're not lucky on top of that. So you could be 80% winning because of your skill over your opponents. Like, if it's 80% and you're really, really skilled, you win, close to 80% of the time just on skill. And then on top of that, you could also just be like a little lucky too. Like, you get a 5% luck boost in a round, you can get a 10% luck boost, you win a die roll, you open up trap dust shoot, shit like that. So I was like, yeah, there's no way. But anyway, so 80-20 was wild. And that was our conversation in the car for a little while. And then at some point, like, we ended up just putting on really, really loud house music, which I like. I first found out about Skrillex in 2012 when I went to Long Beach. And it's crazy, 11 years later from that YCS Long Beach, I ended up hearing another house music or whatever kind of music it is. It definitely had that Skrillex feel to it. I forget the name of it, but it was it was definitely a Latino name. And the music was fire. I have to ask Keegan who it was. It was like, it started with an M. I don't want to say like Marauder or something like that. It was something more Latino based, the name of it, but it was amazing. Like, really, really good. It started with an M. So if you know what I'm talking about off of just that, which I basically gave you nothing, then you're a G. But I'm gonna ask Keegan and let you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyways, so we did that. We get to the Airbnb. Now this is where things start going wild. Okay. Cause you know that if I'm doing story time, things have to get wild, right? So we get to our neighborhood where the Airbnb is, and it's literally right by an entire like mountainside. Like, it is just a huge mountain right next to where we are. And it's a valley. It is called Moreno Valley. So if you look at the picture on Patreon, or if you even Google Moreno Valley and you see what it looks like, it's beautiful. Like, it's very, very fucking beautiful. But there is blatantly just like cliffs and mountains and all kinds of hills and shit like that right next to it. And our Airbnb happened to be in a neighborhood that is literally next to some high ass hills. Beautiful area. All the houses were brown, which I made a remark about the fact that, like, damn, living here is very suburban, that area, compared to LAX, which is a city, and it's very poppin' and loud and all that, and very overcrowded. This was the definition of a suburb, but a Californian suburb. So lots of sun. It looked very desert-like. Everything about it, all the houses were, everyone's house was brown. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's like a mandatory thing that you have to do when you live there, but every single house was the color brown, and then different variations of the color brown, but they were all brown, literally every single one. We get to our Airbnb, and we get in there and we're like, oh, this is really nice. Now we had a 3-bedroom Airbnb, and there were multiple other amenities like pull-out couches and shit like that. So there's only 3 of us here. So this house is huge, and there's only 3 of us. I was like, who wants to stand here, Keegan? He was like, it's just us 3. I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like, this is baller as fuck. So we got this nice ass house, and we're getting all acquainted with the rooms and choosing out, like, I'm going to get this room. We gave Keegan a master bedroom. He didn't care what he got. Like, he was just like, you guys can give me whatever room you want. Gabe chose this green room. Then there was a choice between the master bedroom and this blue room. And I was like, I'm just going to take the blue room. Keegan, you have to get the master bedroom. Like, you invited me here. You let me stay with you for free. You take the master bedroom. All the rooms were nice. So we all go into our individual rooms. We're like unpacking our shit. And one of us makes the comment like, yo, it's a little hot. Let's turn the air on or whatever. And I was like, yeah, we should probably go to Walmart too and get a case of water for the house, because that's like one of my first things I like to do when I travel. And I learned this from just traveling with Silverman and the gang back in the day, traveling with McCabe and them. When you get to a place and you're going to be there for like a whole weekend, the best thing you could do is go to Walmart, go to Target, get a case of water or 2 for the room or for the house in this case, and just have that, put that shit in the fridge and just have that for the whole weekend. You're going to need it. Like, paying hotels or wherever you're at for water is ludicrous, the amount that they charge for that shit. So that's like one of the best tips when you're traveling with a party. Or even if you're by yourself, I think that it's smart to just get like a small case of water if it's just you. But we made that comment. So then Keegan goes to turn the air on. Now, it is, I didn't know this either, but the closer you go inland in California, the hotter it gets. It is like Vegas in the sense that it's a very desert-like area, and LA is very close to the water, right? Like if you look at a map where LA is very close to the water. So LA is usually around 75 degrees all the time. Like LA is a very, very nice weather. And my perception of California has always been 70 to 75 degrees, no matter what. Let me just tell you, you drive 2 hours to Moreno Valley and it is 90 degrees plus. It's hot. Okay, it's very hot. So we're all kind of sweating. So Keegan goes to turn the air on and he's like, yo, something's wrong with the air. So we were like, we all come to the thermostat and we're all like playing around with it. He's like, yeah, it's not working. Like nothing's coming on. It's not getting any cooler. And so we naturally started to panic. We're like, what the fuck? Like, what are we going to do? Because that's not okay. So he contacts the guy on Airbnb. He's like, yo, we're at your spot and the air's not working. Like the central air is just not coming on. And it's actually hot in this fucking Airbnb. So he's like, oh, I'll send somebody out tomorrow or whatever. We're like, tomorrow? Like, there's no way. I told him straight up, I was like, I can't sleep in a house this hot. Like, it is, when it's, I don't know how you feel about this, Kenny, and you let me know. But when it's hot specifically, I have a very hard time going to sleep.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm in agreement. Being hot in general makes me fucking pretty angry. If I'm outside, whatever, but if I'm in my house and like I'm trying to relax and it's like hot and I'm sweating just sitting down,
yeah,
I get fucking angry. And I've been in situations where I didn't have air conditioning and I just had to sleep in the heat, and it's not fun. It fucking sucks.
Yeah.
It's not something I wish on anybody. There was one time, just quick side note, I was scared I was going to die. It was so fucking hot. And my AC was broken and it was so hot and nobody was at my house. I was just by myself. And I remember I was trying to fall asleep and my heart was beating really fucking fast. And I was like, dude, I could just fucking die. I was like, I could just like have a heat stroke in my sleep and fucking die up here. So anyway, all that to say, I don't fuck with it being too goddamn hot and trying to sleep. It's not comfortable at all. I don't fuck with it. And if he said tomorrow and he stuck to that, I'd be like, well, then tonight's free. Like, we're getting a fucking discount because...
Yes. So you are not wrong in what you just said. We complained, and basically to wrap it up is he was like, I can't get anyone out there today. So you guys can get a full refund on the on the Airbnb. So many acronyms. You guys can get a full refund on the Airbnb. And that's how that'll go. And he said you guys can even still stay there. I don't really care, basically. Like, you can stay there. I'm refunding you the full amount or whatever. And I'm going to send a guy out there tomorrow or however it's going to work. Now, we were like, okay, so Keegan gave me and Gabe the option. He's like, what do you guys want to do? Because at nighttime, just like in Vegas, the temperature drops severely in this desert like area. And that is true. I looked at the weather, and this is not something that's familiar to me on the East Coast. Like on the East Coast, if it's hot during the day, sure, it might drop a little bit, but not too much. Not like a desert drops.
It's still hot at night.
It is still hot at night. Like if a day was 90 plus, right? Like, and it was 90 plus in Moreno Valley, it's not dropping to like 70 or below that. That's
No.
not happening. But here, it actually does drop below 70 at nighttime. So we looked at the weather and I was like, oh, it's actually going to be much cooler. And if we just leave now, because we had to go to it's Friday. So we had to go to set up stuff for the event anyway at the place that it's going to be at. Because Keegan is the one not running it literally, but he's one of the people, he's one of the TOs essentially for this tournament. And so we're like, we can go to the local, help set it up and stuff. We won't be in the house anyway. And then by the time we get back later tonight, because we won't come back until super late, hopefully it's much cooler in the house. We could just stay here because the other option was, King was like, and I'm down for whatever you guys want to do. I invited you here. I don't want you to be uncomfortable. And also I'm fucking uncomfortable because I'm sweating and I don't like the heat either. I live in Vegas. It's mandatory in Vegas for every place to have air conditioning. That is like
That's actually true. That is 100% true.
Yeah, he said it to me. And I didn't know if he was being serious or not. He was like, it is mandatory. Like that is a thing that has to happen. So he was like, I don't like this anymore.
You know what I just realized? Maybe I'll hook Keegan up. If he lives in Vegas, because in Thanksgiving, I'm going to be going to Vegas for the week of Thanksgiving. Maybe I'll hit him up and see him one of those days.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. And honestly, I loved hanging out with him, and I'll talk about that in a second too. But so he's like, whatever you and Gabe want to do, I will do. If you guys want me to get a hotel room, or if you want us to get another Airbnb, or whatever you guys want to do, he's like, all I ask is that you just find the place and I will book it. Like literally just find whatever place you want and we can just go there. Like we can take our things, we can go there, no big deal. He's like, the guy's refunding me the money for the Airbnb anyway. So it's not like I'm taking a loss or anything, right? Like I'm getting my money back. Yeah. We could just say, fuck this place and leave and go somewhere else. And so we thought about it. We were like, how about this? How about we go to the local first, help set up, shoot the shit, play test, do whatever people do on Friday nights before a big tournament. Do that. See where the house is in terms of temperature when we get back and see if it's bearable. Because ideally, if we could just save you money, that would be the most ideal situation, because the reality is on Saturday, we're leaving at 8 a.m. Keegan has to be there at 8 a.m. on Saturday. The tournament starts at 10 a.m. So we're with him. So we're going to be at the tournament too at 8 a.m. with him. And I had no problem with that either. So we're just like, yo, we're not going to be here anyway because the tournament is a one-day event. That means all 12 rounds it's 8 rounds of Swiss and 4 rounds of top 16 playoffs. So it's a 12-round tournament on Saturday, which means if you know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh, you know that shit's going to take all day. Literally, I said, literally, we will not be getting back to the Airbnb until midnight or later. We might not get back to the Airbnb until Sunday, like technically, right? Like 1 a.m. would be Sunday. So I was like, that means that there's a whole day where we won't even be in this hot ass house, because the house is going to get hot no matter how it drops at night on Friday. So we talk about all of this and we decided to go to the local, we shoot the shit, we do everything we said we were going to do. We get back to the house and we're like, okay, it's really late. It definitely cooled down a lot. We opened up all the windows now that we're home, opened up everything that had a screen door or whatever. And it's like, let the house kind of just like air out even more. And it was reasonable enough. And there were ceiling fans in every room. It was reasonable enough. We'd be like, okay, we can actually sleep in here, wake up, go to the event, and we just won't be here at all Saturday. And to compound all of this, there was also a random fucking hurricane coming to California. Now, to be clear, because I didn't know that California gets hurricanes. Well, yes, there's that. Flooding is definitely a thing because California can't handle excessive rain, which is crazy because they actually need excessive rain a lot of the times because of fucking fires and stuff and just droughts. But so they can't handle rain, excessive rain anyway. And there's a fucking hurricane coming. Now, I didn't even know about this at all. Like, I kid you not, I had no idea that this was even a thing. And so we get there and we're like, yo, apparently like on Sunday, it's going to be a category 4 hurricane. Now, category 4 is wild, by the way. Like category 4 is destructive. It's considered life-threatening. It's really bad. So I'm nervous now because my flight is on Monday to leave California to go back to Philly. And this hurricane is supposed to come that's supposed to destroy California on Sunday, which means that the airports and shit might not even be around or in operating condition when it's time for me to fly out. And I can't really fly out any earlier either without just straight up not playing in a tournament or not doing anything. Like I would have to show up to LA and decide to leave out of fear that things are going to go terrible. So this is Hurricane Hillary. Now to be clear, the last time California had a hurricane of this level was 83 years ago.
Jesus.
So this is a once in 83-year thing that happened on this specific weekend that I happened to be in California. So obviously that made me really mad because what are the odds that when I come to fucking LA, there's a 1 out of 83 year chance of a fucking hurricane category 4 happening. So that was really obnoxious. So everybody was talking about like, yo, this hurricane's supposed to be crazy. Like, there's going to be excessive flooding. The cars are going to be floating. I asked the people there when it rains really bad, like, how bad is the flooding? They said, up to your knees or higher. I said, what? They were like, yeah, when it rains really, really bad in California, the flooding is up to your knees or higher, like literally knee level or more. And I was like, that's what? That I've never in Philly. That's just not a thing. Like, because Philly is in a valley, and for whatever reason, like, we have really good irrigation here. That's one thing. Like, Philly just is well irrigated. We don't have any problems with flooding usually. Like, it takes something.
Yeah,
it takes
most times because we get heavy rain.
We do.
There has been times where shit got bad.
Yes, there's a picture of somebody swimming in. Like, they're swimming on the highway because the highway was flooded. This was a couple years ago, I think, during the pandemic. There was a really bad storm, really bad. It might have been I don't know. It might have been a hurricane, but there was a really bad storm a couple years ago. And there was a picture of a guy swimming in the fucking dirty ass water. And I was like, there's no way.
A friend of ours took a picture. There's a CVS like across the street from his house, from his apartment.
Yeah.
So he looked out his window and he took a picture of it. I remember he sent it to me. Basically, there's a CVS and the water was up to the CVS letters. Yeah. Or like, it says fucking CVS with like the electric letters or whatever.
Yeah.
The water was like up to those fucking letters. And
that's insane.
But that happened. I don't know. Like, that doesn't happen. Like,
yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't
time. But it's not a thing where like when it rains heavy, we're like, all right, guys, get out the road. Right.
Whenever we see heavy rain in Philly, it doesn't mean catastrophic. It just means it's just going to be annoying that it's going to be super wet. Right. That's really it. It doesn't actually mean that disasters are abound, at least for, again, this is specifically Philadelphia. I don't know how the surrounding suburban areas deal with it, but in Philly, it's fine. Anyway, so this once an 83-year storm is coming. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's saying, what do you got? What are you going to do? And I'm like, I really don't know. I'm just going to play it by ear. I hope that I don't die. And honestly, as weird as it is, or as crazy as it is, a part of me was thinking like, man, if I fucking flew out here and I end up dying because of this shit, I'm going to be so angry in hell. Like, I'm going to be pissed that this is the way I met my end, because there were so many other things that could have took me out. And like, for me to fly to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament and that be the way I go out, it would just be such bullshit. So yeah, if I ended up going to hell because of that, I would have been super annoyed. But luckily, none of that ended up happening. In fact, the storm ended up getting downgraded to a category 1 by the end of Saturday night. So the tournament's over, and they're like, yeah, at 8:30 p.m., they were like, the storm is now downgraded to a category 1. So basically just rain. It's just going to be some rain. And I was like, oh, so nothing. Like, literally nothing's going to happen. All right. So, okay. The next phase of this whole thing. So this is talking about the Airbnb situation and all that stuff. Now let's move to the next phase, the actual tournament. Ooh. Okay. So this is Saturday. Like I said, I got there at 8 a.m. I wrote out my deck list really quick. It is essentially the same exact deck I played for Nationals with very few changes. Now, the cool thing is that list has been referred to online in the Edison community as the God list. A lot of people are now calling it the God list. And I love that is somehow the moniker that it's gotten, but that they said before Frazier made the God list, frogs didn't really matter. And like, nothing counts before Frazier made the God list. These are actual things that if you type in God list in certain Discord servers, like popular ones, you will get search results that show like this conversation happening between players who are also a very high caliber too. And so I didn't know about this until someone told me about it. And then on top of that, so it's one thing for people to be discussing it in that high esteem, but then it's won the last 2 online events as of right now. So the last 2 online Yu-Gi-Oh! Edison tournaments have been both won by Hero Frogs, and they're both just my list with like literally 2 card changes. So that is really, really cool to see happening following Nationals. Like, I'm the highest placing frog player at Nationals. And now that list is going on to do great things, outside of me, which shows that somehow I ended up building a really, really strong deck. And I have sound logic for all my card choices, and I've been defending the reason why I only play 4 Monarchs. And luckily, like, the guy who won one of the tournaments, he played 4 Monarchs as well. Like, it's just, I've been explaining like my logic for certain things, and people are like, why don't you play more of this, or why don't you do more of that, or why don't you play this or that? And I explained everything, and I've done all types of videos and stuff talking about this stuff and all that. But so I felt confident in my deck going into this RBET, and I played round 1, and I'm used to this. I got a round 1 feature match. Now, basically, since I've come back to Yu-Gi-Oh! And played Edison, I feel like every single tournament I play in, no matter what, I get a feature match, like every single time. I don't think there's been a single online tournament I've played in so far that I have not gotten a feature match in since coming back to Yu-Gi-Oh! And I get it, right? Like views, all that good stuff. Get your clout any way you can. I do the same thing now that I'm a content creator, and I would do the same thing if I hosted a tournament and Dale Bolito was playing in it. You best believe I'm going to feature Dale Bolito in my fucking stream, so I get it. But I kind of felt it. Like I was sitting down waiting for my opponent to show up round one, and like no one came over to me for a while. And everyone else has their opponent. So I'm like, all right, am I about to get a bye? Is this guy just like, I'm not playing round one because of who my opponent is? Because that's happened to me before. I'm not saying that to be cocky. This is actually something that's happened where somebody's like, you know what, guy, fuck it. I just came here to get this mat. I'm not here for all this. Like, you can have the win. And he just walked away. So it's happened before with, someone's like round one, see the name, I'm not playing. So my opponent doesn't show up for a while. And then a guy comes over to me. He's like, yo, you're the feature match for round one. So I get up, get my stuff, go over to the feature match area. And then this other black guy shows up and he's my round one opponent. Now, when I was looking at the room fill out with all the people who were going to be playing in this tournament, he was like the only other black person I really noticed in the room. Like, I'm sure that there might have been others, but one, this guy is blatantly darker than me. So that was one surprise there. And then two, he's like very, very, very talkative. Now, this is important for a couple reasons because I didn't know that my round one opponent was going to be so fucking unhinged. But I ended up playing this guy who online is known as Bluffed Knock. And I guess that's for something that maybe he bluffed a nobleman of Crossout in the past. And so his name is Bluff Knock, and he has a very big personality. And as soon as he sat down, he just started talking, and he is a character, okay? So I play him on the stream. You can go watch it if you haven't seen it already. And it was pretty entertaining, but he's the guy who I drew a battle fader on when he tried to finally go for game. And then I battle fader, and then I killed him. And we had a good match. Like, everything in that match was fine. He talked the entire time, though. And if you know me, I don't really like to talk during my time playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I just kind of stone face. I don't talk unless it's relevant. I'm not going to ask you too much stuff outside of the game. I'm not going to really point out stuff outside of the game. I just kind of pay really close attention to what's happening in the game, and I'm very quiet. And I prefer my opponents to be the same way, although I have dealt with talkative people like him before, and thank God for Silverman, I'm used to it, and I'm able to navigate through that without like being taken out of my A game. You can't take me out of my A game by talking to me. It's not going to happen. So he's talking the whole match, and I'm still just like playing at my level, and I just 2-0 him, right? I don't think anything of it. I just 2-0 this guy. And I'm like, okay, good. We're off to a great start. So then after round one, round two, I play against the Hero B guy, and he wins game one. I win game two. And then game three, we're very close to time. And he ends up in a string of like 3 turns in a row. He draws like Diva, Miracle Fusion, and randomly, and I can't believe he sided this in, but the card Fisher, like actual Fisher, he drew that as well. And the reason why that's relevant is because I Miracle Fusion for Absolute Zero to protect my life points. And he drew a card and was like, activate Fisher, and killed my Zero, which is insane because usually in Edison format, you can't trade positive with Absolute Zero because he always takes your monsters if you kill it. So the fact that he had a removal spell like that was actually really good against Absolute Zero. And then he was able to play Diva and Miracle Fusion, which is one of the strongest like follow-ups in the game. So I ended up losing round two. And then round three, so I'm 1-1. So round three, I played against the Value Turbo player. In game one, all is going very, very well, except that my opening hand is 3 Miracle Fusions, right? Those are unplayable without a hero in the water. And I didn't open up a single water monster. No, I didn't open up a hero. I had frogs. I didn't have any heroes. And so I opened up 3 deck cards, and he trap dust shoots me. So he sees my hand has 3. It's like, it's one thing for you to brick. It's another thing for you to brick and your opponent see the brick. So this is game one, and I lose the die roll.
Now they're like, oh, I'm like, dick is hard. Like, I'm going in. That's like, it's
correct.
all in.
Correct. But I ended up drawing a hero when I like literally right before he would have killed me. I top decked Ocean, and I was like, fuck it, here we are. Summon Ocean, activate Miracle Fusion. Then I went for a game because he was at 7,200. He had a Caius and a Sirocco in the field with no back row. And he only had 2 cards in hand. So he has Caius, Sirocco, 2 cards in hand. He's at 7,200. And my hand is triple Miracle Fusion. I just drew Ocean, and he just attacked me into my Gores. I dropped Gores on the Sirocco and not the Caius, so the token got killed by Caius. So I have Gores in defense mode. I bring back Treeborn Frog. I go Summon Ocean, activate Miracle Fusion. So now I have Absolute Zero, Treeborn Frog, and Gores. So Absolute Zero is at 3,000 attack because of the Treeborn Frog. I go Brain Control your Caius. So now I have Caius, Gores, Absolute Zero, Treeborn Frog. He has Sirocco. I go activate Miracle Fusion again, fuse Absolute Zero, destroy your Sirocco. I go everybody attack for game. He's like, attack in order. I was like, okay, so you have Gores or whatever, which is not a big deal in this situation because my field is fucking insane, and you'd have to drop Gores early to not die, and because Absolute Zero is also 3,000, and I don't really have any fears because even if I have to pass, there's not much he can really do because of Absolute Zero. Like, even if he dark armed me or something like that crazy, it doesn't matter because you're going to lose whatever cards you use to kill the Absolute Zero. So I do this push, and surprisingly, he's playing Value Turbo, by the way. Surprisingly, he drops Tragodia right before he gets attacked for game. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't expect that. But it doesn't matter because Tragodia, because he only had one other card in his hand, Tragodia was no attack at all, essentially. It was 600 attack. So I ran over to Tragodia, and I have to pass him back to Caius. But again, I have Gorz, Treeborn, Absolute Zero to his 1 card in hand, draw to 2 cards in hand. Now, my life points are at 2,300 on the dot. And in my head, I'm like, I still have another Miracle Fusion, and he knows it. Like, my hand is still Miracle Fusion, and I think I had something else, but like, it doesn't really matter. He goes, now he has 2 cards. He draws the 2. He goes, Summon Dark Armed, which that Tragodia that I just killed was his 3rd Dark. So he goes, Summon Dark Arm off the top. He goes, Pop Gorz, Pop Treeborn Frog, Pop Zero in that order. So then he loses his Dark Arm Dragon. And he loses the Caius that I gave him back on the end phase. So I'm like, okay. Then he goes, activate Bird from a different dimension.
Oh, shit.
Put back Vayu, Sirocco, and kills me. So I was like, after that game, I was like, which one of those did you draw? Was it the Dark Arm or was it the Burial? And he was like, I drew the Dark Arm. And I was like, that's insane. Like, that's absolutely insane. But, okay, no big deal. Game 2. Game 2 we're playing. I'll go first. My hand is really good. I open up like Infernal Prodigy, Substitute. I do the full combo. And on like Substitute plus Dupe Frog. And I pass. And then he like sets a monster, I think. And I go like draw, bring back Treeborn, do some more Substitute stuff. Then I go sack for Caius, attack, pass. And then he like draws. And he sets a back row and sets another monster. So then on the following turn, I go like Swap Frog, bounce the Caius to my hand, summon it again, target your face down monster. And he goes, well, I don't target his face down monster. I go summon the Caius. He goes Solemn Judgment. So now I have Substitute, Dupe Frog, and I think a special summon Swap Frog. And I was thinking about his set monster. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to attack it because I want to see what it is. And we'll deal with it from there. Because if it's Raikou, that's great. So I was like, attack, and it was Fossil Dyna. So Fossil Dyna killed the Swap Frog, the Treeborn, and the Substitute, or whatever, the Dupe Frog, the Substitute. So I ended up getting like a Unifrog to my hand, and he has the Fossil Dyna. My life points are 8,000, so I'm fine. And on the following turn, he draws, he summons Dark Grepher, he pitches a card, pitches a Value to send Sirocco to the grave. He attacks for 29 because he can't special summon because of Fossil Dyna. So I'm like, okay, we're in a fine spot because my hand already had a Reinforcement of the Army, and I just didn't play it yet. So I could get Stratos or Alias or Ocean at any point, whenever I feel like it. So the Fossil, and he has no back row. He has a Dyna and a Grepher and no back row. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to kill the Dyna whenever I'm ready. So I go draw. I drew an Alias, and I was like, all right, that's fine. Play Rhoda, get Stratos, summon Stratos, search out like Ocean, I think. And I attacked over the Grepher because I thought about it. I was like, I'm not going to kill the Dyna and leave the Grepher there and also unlock special summoning for this guy when I'm the one who doesn't have any, I don't have any defense. In my hand, I didn't draw any traps or anything like that, but my hand is not bad at all. I didn't draw any traps, no battle faders, no Gorz, nothing. So I'm kind of defenseless, but I have a really good hand. So I'm like, I'm going to kill the Dyna when I'm ready to kill the Dyna and unlock him the ability to special summon again. So I play it that way. I attack over the Grepher and I leave him with Dyna. He goes draw, summon Gale off the top. He goes half your Stratos, attack. So now my life points are getting kind of low. I'm like sub 4,000, I think, or like around 4,000. And I'm annoyed because I'm like, God damn it. Like, there are not many monsters in Value Turbo that can raw beat a Stratos. And I thought about that. I literally thought about that before I ended my turn. I was like, okay, Card Trooper and Gale are the only 2 cards that could actually beat a fucking Stratos. And so he summons the Gale. And then on the following turn, I summon Alias. And I have the decision again. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to kill the Fossil Dyna for the same reason I didn't kill it last time because I still haven't drawn a defensive card. I attacked over the Gale and left him with the Fossil Dyna again. And on the following turn, he goes draw. He looks over at the life points. He looks over at my Alias. He looks at the life points again. And I was like, oh no. And he goes, activate Brand Control, summon Armageddon Knight, attack for game. And I was like, yep, that's game. So I won round 1. I lost round 2. I lost round 3. Top deck Dark Arm, top deck like Brain Control. Or I don't even know which one it was, to be honest. Like I kind of talked to him a little bit after the game or whatever. And I told him like, good luck. This is exactly what I wanted if I was going to lose in the tournament, because this is how I always feel. If I'm going to scrub out, let it be early. I do not want to waste my fucking time or my whole day playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, getting all the way to the bubble, and then not making it. That is the worst feeling that anyone could have. If you've ever gotten all the way through a tournament, and then you see your name get 9th when it's top 8, or you see yourself get 17th when it's top 16, or you get to the bubble, and if you win it, you top, but if you lose, you don't, and then you end up losing it. Again, awful feeling. So I kept thinking to myself, and this is how I feel about every tournament I enter. if I lose, please just let it be early in the tournament. I want to lose the first two or three rounds every time. If I'm going to lose at all, it's either top the tournament or lose early. Those are the two best ways for it to happen for me. And so when I lost by round 3, I was like, okay, this is fine. I told my opponent good luck. I told both of the people who beat me good luck. I was like, you know what? It wasn't meant to be. You know how Yu-Gi-Oh is. People kept asking me about it and stuff like that. You know how people are like, oh, what's your record? And I'm like, oh, I dropped. They're like, you dropped? I can't believe it. Oh my God. I thought you were going to win it all. And all that kind of stuff. And I get it, right?
Yeah.
They see a good player, but this is going back to that 80-20 thing. Like Yu-Gi-Oh is not a game of all skill. It's just not.
Nah.
And sometimes there are days where your deck or your opponent's deck or whatever decides to just fuck on you. Sometimes your deck doesn't draw correctly and your deck is fine because it just topped nationals 8-1 in Swiss, win top 8, get top 4, only losing to the winner twice. Those are my only losses in the fucking tournament. So like it, one day it could be your day, it could be your weekend and everything's going fine, and then another day your opponents are top decking like their miracles, their divas, their dark arms, their burials, their brain controls, and you just get bopped. And there's nothing that like you did wrong necessarily. And I do evaluate like when I lose if there's something I could have done differently. But in both those situations, like, what am I supposed to do to a top deck dark arm? In hindsight, I was like, oh, well, I could have not attacked the Tragodia, but there's no reason for me not to do that.
Yeah, that is a 1,000,000% like hindsight thing.
It's
hindsight
not even
play. Where people go like, oh, look, I could have been big brain and not attacked the Tragodia. It's like, yeah, but you would never do that. Like, that makes no sense.
And also,
the Tragodia there, and then he tributes it for Caius, and then
that's exactly,
you know what I mean?
That's exactly what I was like. There's no reason for me to leave the fucking Tragodia there. That's just hindsight. Also, like in the situation that we were in, it's not even just Dark Arm that it had to be. It had to be Dark Arm plus Burial. Yeah. So it was like it was a 2-part thing, right? It was multiple things had to happen for me to die that turn, and I was like, all right, so I'm not too upset about that one. But then like I tell people that come up to me and they're like, oh man, I feel so bad. Like I know you traveled to get here and all that. And I'm like, listen, man, let me tell you this. This is not the first tournament I've traveled to. This is not the furthest tournament I've traveled to. And it won't be the last. I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitively for more years of my life than most people have been playing the game by this point. And
some of them longer than they've been alive.
Yes. So to me, if you played enough Yu-Gi-Oh, you know that any given day, it could be your day or it could be someone else's day. And it's really not in your control. And you just have to learn to roll with the punches. You can't be like super salty. You can't be a dickhead about it. You just have to accept that sometimes people are going to have a good day or you're going to have a bad day or whatever. And that's just Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a card game. It has RNG. I've sacked the shit out of people. You think in my 10 plus years of playing this game, I haven't won tournaments and top tournaments and done all types of shit at tournaments because I absolutely one-outed my opponent with a 30 card deck. Like I drew the only card in my entire deck that I could have possibly drawn right there to win the game. Like I've done it all and I've had it all done to me in the past. So nothing shocks me anymore. I'm never really surprised anymore. Like when something crazy happens in a duel that makes me lose or when something crazy makes me win, I'm kind of indifferent. Like people will see me sack an opponent and be like, yo, that's savage. You drew that. And I'm just like, I feel nothing because this is something I've seen too many. I'm desensitized. I've seen it too much.
You realize it's part, because at the end of the day, it's part of the game. It's the numbers. Like Yu-Gi-Oh! It is a skill-based and a luck-based game.
Yes.
It is both.
It is a card game. Even poker, right? They show you when you watch poker the probability that one guy's going to win his hand 95% of the time and the other guy's going to win it 5%. And you will actually watch World Series of Poker live on fucking TV and see that 5% guy win.
Yeah, it'll happen. And every time it happens, you'll say like, what are the chances? But like it happens, like it just happens. Right?
Yes.
And the chances are 5%. But
yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
5% isn't as rare as you think it is.
Correct.
Like, humans, like we're super flawed in that we see something as 95%, and then so we go, okay, so that always happens.
Right.
But like it doesn't always happen. That's why it's 95%. And that's part of the skill in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is manage. Sometimes the luck is unmanageable, but part of it is taking bad luck and trying to navigate through it and playing through the game and still winning anyway.
Yeah.
And that's just Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not fucking Smash Ultimate. Like in Smash Ultimate, if fucking MKLeo enters a tournament, you're not going. There's no amount of luck you can get to beat him.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Not for people on our level, right? Like no one at our level of Smash. We're basically Smash Ultimate scrubs. We can't possibly win a tournament over Leo if he's in attendance. It just won't happen. We can't get lucky enough. There's nothing we can do about it. And that's just the reality of it, because fighting games are way different. But in card games, and it's not just Yu-Gi-Oh, it's all of them. Card games in general, they're all RNG. Like there's going to be an aspect of it that is luck based, and you can't control that part.
That's part of the game. It's part of the skill, part of the fun. Like it sucks, but it's part of the game. That's what makes building a strong deck so important.
Yeah,
because you want to minimize the amount of luck or maximize. Like I remember a True Hero Cairo talked about how somebody said he got so lucky because he drew a one of, and then Cairo explained that half of his deck is one ofs.
Yeah. And I'm the one who told that to Cairo. There was a while ago where Zombies had won an RBET, I believe. And I looked at the guy's deck who won, and I counted because I noticed how many one-offs he drew when he won the tournament in the finals. I was like, oh man, that was a crazy string of one-offs. So then I looked at his deck list, and I looked at all the zombie deck lists, and I said, oh shit. Mizuki, Card Trooper, Dark Arm, Gorge, Tragodia, Call of the Hornet, Solemn Judgment, Trap Dushu, Mirror Force, Torrential. And they just started adding up Plague Spreader, Zombie Gale. And next thing I knew, I was like, wait a second. There are actually more one-ofs in the deck than there are cards that you could play more than one, actually. When I got to the end of the zombie deck, there were 22 one-ofs in the deck and 18 cards that you could play multiples of. So what that told me is that you are not allowed to complain about your opponent drawing one-ofs, because that deck is actually more one-ofs than anything else. And then when we looked at Diva Hero, I was like, holy shit, Diva Hero is the same thing. It's not as dense. It wasn't 22. It was somewhere around 19. But I was like, that's still half. Half of your deck is one-ofs. So again, you can't really complain when they're like Future Fusion or Dark Arm, their Brain Control or whatever, because literally half of the cards that they play are actually at one. That's just how it is.
And so that's the structure of the deck. That's what makes it interesting, because you can build your deck to minimize luck as much as possible. And you can also, in a way, like a deck like that, it almost in a way tries to maximize luck. Now it's still like Diva Hero, for example, can draw double Mally and stuff like that. But it has like a swing where there's parts of the deck that are super unlucky, but then there's parts of the deck that are constructed to be lucky on purpose.
Yep. You know what I mean? And let me say this too real quick. It is your responsibility as a player, because I don't want this to be lost on anyone, and I don't want anyone to misconstrue that I think that Edison is just a luck-based format. That is not what I think. That is not what I'm saying. You need your job, your responsibility as a player is to put yourself in the best position possible to be lucky in the first place. For example, round one, people were saying Frazier sacked that guy because he drew Battle Fader. But my opponent could have gone for game earlier and he would have killed me. I did not have Battle Fader. Because he did that, he put me in a position to win the game with Battle Fader. Like, that was his fault. He did that to himself. And like, obviously I'm just doing what I'm going to be doing anyway. I walled up with my Dude Frog, my Substitute and all that shit.
So in that instance, you did not get lucky because you drew a card. Like, the other person just misplayed.
Right. If he played better, we would have been in game 3 and anything could have happened, because I don't think that Zombies has a bad time with frogs a lot of times. That is one of our natural enemies, because they play Book of Life in the main deck. They play DD Crow in the main deck a lot of times. So they have a natural hate towards frogs without going out of their way too. Some people go crazy and try to like main deck certain cards that I don't think you should, because they're scared of frogs. And it's like, in this case, this deck, Book of Life, is just part of its engine. Like, it just happens to fuck on the frog deck. So yeah, that matchup is in my opinion, it can be kind of zombie, especially a good zombie player. I think that a good zombie player can beat a good frog player. And maybe the matchup is 50-50. Maybe it's a little bit better for the frogs. I don't know, because I haven't tested it that much. But the point is, your goal, your job as a player in this game is to get your skill as high as possible so that your luck matters less. You know, that's kind of like the goal. Like, put yourself in a position where you don't need as much luck, even though everyone does need luck to win. Now, I'll never change my mind on that ever since McCabe said it to me over 10 years ago. Like, you need luck to win. So don't feel bad when you sack people, right? Like, don't feel bad when you savage someone off the top of your deck. You need luck to win. Anyone who's ever won a tournament, they might be good, but they're always lucky. Okay, that person is 100% lucky.
Such a good quote.
Yeah,
it's such a good quote.
Okay, so I don't know. Did you want to say more about that, or were you good on that? Because we go.
No, I mean, I think we covered it.
Yeah,
we covered that.
Okay, so as I was saying, like, I was explaining to everyone who was really sad for me having come all the way here and not winning the tournament or topping the tournament, whatever. And I told him, listen, man, this is not the last time it happened. I'm used to this kind of thing too, as crazy as that is, but like, I've seen it so much. So I don't take any one tournament as a representation of my skill level. And this is to answer some of the questions that we got in our IMNerd podcast Discord. So I told everyone in our Discord today that me and Kenny will be recording the podcast following this tournament, and it's going to be centered around Moreno Valley. And they were like, can we field some questions to you? And so I opened up the forum so that people could actually ask me some things. And one of them was, how do you recover after losing? Like, how do you, because in the same day, for people who don't know, I ended up winning the second best prize the entire weekend that you could have won. So there was a tournament for a giant Black Rose Dragon, the same one that a True Hero won at Nationals. I said this earlier, just reiterating. There was a tournament for that as well. And so I entered that tournament and ended up winning that tournament. And that prize is worth a minimum of $1,000. Like that card, the guy who got third sold his for, I think, somewhere around $1,500. And then the other one Kairos got sold for like around $1,200 or something like that. So they are very, very, very expensive. Definitely more than a PS5. Definitely more than double of a PS5. Okay, so let's just be clear. And that's the second place prize for the main event. So main event, in order to get second, you have to play the entire 12 rounds. You play all 12 to get a PS5, right? And this is not to like shit on anybody for getting the PS5 or whatever, but I scrubbed out of the main event, played in the side event, won a couple rounds, and got like a crazy prize, which is great. Like that is great that I was incentivized, and Keegan and everybody running the tournaments was able to incentivize people to pay money to play in a side event that was worth our time. Because most people, after they lose the main event, they'll either leave the venue altogether or they'll just like not play anymore because the prizes are shit for side events typically. So to have a second tournament on the same day with a really luring prize like that, I think is a goal and a key to make, like that was one of the reasons why I even went to the event, is because the prizes were so absurd for this.
That's so cool. So
people were asking, and this is one of the questions. This one comes from JX89. So he was at the tournament, and he's actually a Patreon member, and we actually did an exhibition match on YouTube where he beat me. He plays fairies. He plays fairies, and I was playing Black Wings because he wanted some testing against Black Wings or heroes or whatever. And so we have that matchup on our YouTube channel. But he said, I started X and 1 with fairies, then lost the last 2 rounds to frog variants. It didn't hit me till after the fact, but I feel like I missed out on a big opportunity. Can you maybe talk about ways to put that behind you and move forward? And I said, what do you mean by put that behind you? Because I didn't know what he was specifying there. And I was like, what opportunity do you feel like you missed out on? And he said, just an opportunity to top a big event. I didn't expect to do well. So the fact that I was probably 1 match win away from topping the biggest Yu-Gi-Oh tournament in my area in the last decade is a little disheartening. And my answer to that is, and I kind of said a bit of it in my last little rant about how I've seen and I've played so much of this game. I've seen it all and I felt it all. But mindset is a big deal. And this is in every competitive game. Like me and Stengo talked about this with Kenny in a podcast clip that dropped this past week as well. Mindset, right? Now, after I lost, I wasn't happy. Let's be clear. Like when I dropped from the tournament, right? When I dropped from Moreno Valley by round 3, mind you, I went 1 and 2 and I dropped. I'm not one of those people who's going to play the next 5 rounds because it was 8 rounds of Swiss. I'm not going to play the next 5 rounds hoping that I go X2 and top the tournament, right? I'm not doing that. That's just not, at this point, I'm very realistic about it. I could win the next 5, but the reality is that I probably won't top because of how early I lost. And if my opponents who beat me don't do well, then I'm also in a bad spot because my tiebreakers will suck. I've also done that many times before where I play out the whole tournament and I do go X2 and I end up getting 34th, 35th, 36, shit like that. So that's frustrating as well. So I was like, I'm not doing that to myself. I've done that too much. I'm older now. I'm more mature. I can take a loss. I really can. Now, again, I wasn't happy when I lost. When I walked up to the front and I said, hey, can you drop me from the tournament? And the guy was like, what? I wasn't like thrilled about it, right?
You weren't also like, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. But I was able to just like calm my mind. After I dropped, I walked outside and I just like recovered myself, right? Mentally, I was like, okay, it's okay. Like you lost the main event. The day's not over though. There's still another tournament and it's just 1 tournament. You literally can't top them all. You can't win them all and you can't top them all. It's actually impossible. Okay. We've all played in tournaments where we didn't top. No one can top every tournament. It's just not a thing. So mentally I had to have that conversation with myself because despite the fact that I'm saying all of this, don't get it twisted. It's not like I'm some perfect being who, after I lost, I took it so great. And I just had this strong mental where I was able to bounce back and go and win this giant Black Rose. It wasn't like that. I was definitely in my mind and I had to bring myself back to reality. Like, yo, it happens. You're not bad. I thought about my games because I was outside by myself. Thankfully, everyone was in the room still. And when I was out there, no one really bothered me at first. And we'll get to that in a second, but no one really bothered me. I was just kind of chilling by myself on my phone, and I started thinking about my losses and what I could have done differently, which is what I usually do. And I was like, yeah, to be honest, like luck is a thing. Maybe it just wasn't my day. Maybe it was my opponent's day. Hopefully those people top, stuff like that. But I didn't beat myself up too bad about it. And then I started having conversations with other players who were also losing. So the guy who became with Gabe/Monster Gamer, he also lost early. So he came outside and was like, yeah, I got smoked too. And he's won an RBET. Like, he's like, I got smoked. Another guy, 10 foot, his name is 10 foot Dick. If you know him on the Discords and stuff like that, he's a really, really good player. I think he's won an RBET as well. He's also the most prolific value turbo player in the format. Like, he's kind of coined with having the list. So if there's a god list for frogs that I built, then he built the god list for value turbo, because everyone just plays his list basically. And it's a very tried and true list. It's very, very good. But he also scrubbed out really early. So we were all outside, and I was like, look at us. Who would have thought? And I was doing the Spider-Man thing. We were pointing to each other. Yeah, like I was doing the Paul Rudd and Spider-Man meme at the same time. Like, look at us. Who would have thought? Pointing at each other. Like, look at us being previously like really good players before this tournament, having all these accomplishments and stuff like that, and then being out before round 4. We didn't even make it halfway through the tournament, dog. So we were all talking about our stories, and we all made fun of each other and like how crazy it was, the way we lost. Like, yo, my opponent did this, and that part was really fun, and that also helps. So to answer your question, JX89, how do you bounce back from this? I think one part of it is to remind yourself it's a game, and there's a portion of it that is luck based. And if you already have looked at your replay, if you already thought about how you lost, if you really thought about it and you were not responsible for your loss, and you have to really have an honest conversation with yourself, because a lot of people, a lot of people cannot be honest about their misplays. And that is like, you can't really become better if you can't accept that you do misplay. Like, I misplay, a True Hero misplays, Stango misplays, Beast Mode misplays, we all fucking misplay. All your favorite player, okay, the best player in the world, whoever it is, the Jesse Cons of the world, the Chris LeBlancs, the Patrick Hobans, we all misplay. It's a thing. And we're all human beings. So like, you have to come to terms with the fact that you are not perfect and that your opponent didn't just sack you every time. Sometimes you genuinely did fuck up, right? That's the first thing. So once you evaluate, did I lose because of me? Or did I lose because I got unlucky and my opponent might have gotten lucky or something like that? Once you evaluate that part, if you come to the conclusion that like, yes, my opponent did get lucky, or maybe I got unlucky, however it went. Once you establish that part, I think the next thing is to remind yourself it's a game, right? So remind yourself that this is a game and that RNG is a factor. And then also tell yourself that no one tournament is indicative of your actual skill level. I'm not defined solely by Moreno Valley's main event outcome, right? No one's going to say Frazier Smith actually sucks at this game because he scrubbed out of Moreno Valley with a 1-2 record. That's just not the narrative that will be put on me, because it's track record overall. And I don't want that to be a deterrent for people who don't have a strong track record, but I want you to understand that it's not just one tournament that defines you. That's the main thing.
And you got to build the track record. And once you build, here's the thing, you can suck forever. And then once you're good, you're good. Like
a True Hero.
Frazier. Yeah, well, I was going to just use you as an example. Use
a True Hero.
Talked about this before. No, I'm going to use you. But you have talked about before how you've, tried really hard for many tournaments to try to top, whatever regionals or shonen jumps or whatever. And like, you didn't. And you've said it, multiple times, but your very first top was a win for a YCS. But the point is, before then, outside of like the Philadelphia area, Frazier wasn't a name anybody knew or cared about.
Correct.
It wasn't until after that win, and then even after the win, okay, he won, but was it luck? Because that's the thing. Everybody knows the game has luck. So a lot of people beat themselves up a lot when they lose. But like, the point is, people beat themselves up when they lose, but you have to, like Frazier already said, really evaluate your loss. See if it really was your fault or if it was truly luck that made you lose. Like, for example, I'll just use the Battle Fader thing. Without anybody talking about it afterwards, you could walk away saying like, oh, I can't believe he top decked Battle Fader. But then at the same time, it's like, you gave him a turn to top that, whatever. Anyway, right. So you have to evaluate that. Did you make a bad decision or did he get lucky, etc.? But anyway, once you end up becoming good, it doesn't matter what your track record was. It doesn't matter if you went to 100 tournaments and lost all of them. This is the point that I'm getting to. It doesn't matter if you lost and did terrible and scrubbed in 100 tournaments. Once you start doing good, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, wow, this guy topped the last 5 tournaments he was in.
Right.
Nobody's going to say, oh, yeah, but he's 5 in 100. The 100 tournaments before that, like, nobody cares.
That's really true.
Nobody's going to bring up that you didn't do good in the last 100 tournaments if you did good in your last 5 tournaments. But the point is, to get good at anything, and anything worth having is hard to get. There's nothing that's easy to get usually that's worth having. And so the point is, it's going to be really hard. You're going to lose a lot. But you have to struggle and evaluate yourself and work hard at it. And then once you get good, and you got to, let things roll off your back, etc. Once you get good and once you start topping tournaments, it'll become easier, and you'll understand like a loss isn't that big of a deal. And then people will look at you and be like, oh man, he topped the last, 4 tournaments. Like, that guy's pretty good. They're not going to say, oh yeah, but for 6 years before that, he lost. Nobody, nobody cares.
That's correct. You're absolutely right. And so no one tournament is indicative of your skill. And I know in part of this, I don't want to be insensitive about it. You said that this was in your backyard, right? And this was the biggest tournament in your area, and you were basically one match away. That's just going to happen. That's how it is. Just keep on grinding. I know you're a fairy player. I don't have a high respect for that deck, to be honest, anymore. Like, I don't really find that deck I think there are way better decks you could be playing. So I do feel like you are nerfing yourself. And this is me being brutally honest, right? I know we played the exhibition match, and you actually 2-0'd me. And, that, again, that one match, though, doesn't define who's better out of me and you, does it? So this tournament doesn't define you as a player either. So if you're mentally feeling like, damn, am I bad because I didn't do well at this, or am I bad or whatever, mentally don't think that about yourself. Like, you have to realize that it's all about the decisions that you make, one, like what decks you play, and the skills, the play testing that you do to develop your skills, but also there's parts of it that you cannot control, and you have to be okay with that too. So that's like my long ass answer, our long ass answer on this whole aspect of like, what do I do for my mental to bounce back? Because I ended up winning a tournament. Let me explain something though. So I talked about the outside aspect where I talked to 2 other really good players, and we made fun of the whole situation, and we were able to laugh it off, and that made me feel great after. I think one of the best things you could do is just have friends at these events. Solitude is not really good for our mental. Humans just need companionship in some way. It helps out a lot. When me and Silverman used to scrub, or me and McCabe used to scrub at events, we would just laugh with each other, and it would make the entire trip worth it. We would forget all about the fucking YCS. None of that matters anymore, because now I'm laughing with McCabe and Silverman about all this bullshit that happened and how we lost and how absurd it was. And sometimes the stories that come out of that are just hilarious. And you just forget. So that's the other thing. Make friends that can like take your mind off of it. But then also, so this is what really happened. Let me give you the truth. So I won the Giant Black Rose, but it didn't just happen as easy as like, oh, I just entered another tournament, I won. Like, no. When I entered it, by the time it started, it was round 6 of the main event. So the main event is in round 6. So this is several rounds later, because I dropped round 3. So it's been 3 rounds later, which is over 3 hours later, because every round of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is over an hour. So it's been over 3 hours since I lost. So I've been chilling with people signing. I literally have been signing fucking autographs. I've been taking pictures. I've been talking to people. I've been watching Winamats. I've been telling people that they played really well. Like, there was this one kid who was playing my Frog Hero deck, and I sat next to him and I told him straight up, I was like, I really love the way you just played that game. I said, you had a lot of restraint and you played your fucking ass off. And for you to be so young, I like really respect you for the way you played that. And he like won out of a situation. His opponent was main decking DD Crows. And I was like, I don't know if this guy like side decked before the game started or what happened, but the fact that you still beat him, I was really, really impressed by not only the fact that you beat him, but the way you beat him. You did a lot of stuff that I would have done, and maybe even some stuff that I didn't even think of or see. And I told him I was really impressed. He was like, that really means a lot coming from you. And like, he was really happy. And he's like, damn, you just made my day. Like, it was a whole thing of me just taking my mind off of my own self, right? Like taking my mind off of the tournament, how I scrubbed out, and just doing other things with my time that are productive. And then trying to learn from other people, because I was watching the Frog Hero players play because I wanted to see what they would do in situations that I would do something different or whatever. So I did that. By the time the giant card tournament started, I said to myself already, I don't care what happens here. I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm going to play as best as I can. Like, I'm always going to play. If I enter my money to play in a tournament, you best believe I'm going to try. So I don't want this to be misconstrued either. I didn't care in the sense that like, I wasn't super try hard mode. I wasn't like, all right, I gotta get something. I gotta leave here with something, because otherwise I would look crazy to travel all the way from Philadelphia to California and not leave with something. I didn't go in like that. I literally went in saying, you already lost the main event. Fuck it. Like, literally, losing the main event for me took a big weight off of my shoulders, and it made it where I was able to more easily sit down and just play the game, right? It wasn't as much pressure. So when I played my round on an opponent who happened to be 10-foot Dick, I played him round 1. He's the best value player, the best value tour player in the world. I played him round 1. And I was like, damn, my first opponent is not only the guy who I was laughing with and talking with about everything that happened to us this weekend, but it's also like a really, really, really good player already from round one.
Yeah.
So I play him and it goes to game 3. And I was like, all right, cool. I won a game. Like, and then people were talking to me in between that and stuff like that. And I was just having fun. I was like, I don't care what, I literally didn't care what happens, because this is a single elim tournament too. It's not Swiss. It's just like, if you lose, you're out, period.
Yeah.
So I beat him, and then I had to play a Phoenician cluster Amaryllis guy, and this actually got recorded. So this is the matches are on Playtest IRL's YouTube channel. It's called Playtest IRL, but they have a YouTube channel, and that match and the finals match are streamed. They were recorded at least. So I play against this Phoenician cluster Amaryllis deck, which actually is the deck that I had to play in the 3rd, 4th playoffs at Nationals, and I lost to it. So I had to play against that again. And this time when I played it, I lost game 1, just like I did in the top 3 or 4 playoff thing. So I was like, damn, I lost game 1 to this deck. This deck eliminated me from Nationals essentially. And here I am playing it again, and I'm about to lose to it again. So I was like, all right, let me get out of my head. Just games 2 and 3, do your best. I won game 2, and then game 3, I fucking absolutely destroyed him. And that was the end of it. So I was like, oh, I beat my demon. Again, no pressure though. I didn't even realize, this is how much I didn't realize what was going on. I didn't realize that the tournament had shrank down so much that I only had to win 2 more rounds to win the whole thing. Like, I didn't even think about how long the bracket, it was only 4 rounds. I didn't have to think, but the thing is, every good player who was eliminated from the main event was in this side event. So every single round was someone real. So then round 3, I had to play against Alex Reynolds, who owns a store in California, has owned the store in California for over 10 years. He owns super special awesome cards. And he had a fully max rarity Lightsworn deck, double sleeved. Everything was first edition. Everything was ultimate. Everything was secret. Everything was max rarity. So I played him. So now this is round 3, and he's also very good at the game too. He's top YCSs and all types of shit. So he's actually a really good player, a really nice guy. I actually congratulated him on being married, because I noticed he had a wedding ring on his finger. I didn't notice that before on any of our previous interactions. So I congratulated him on being married. We played a really intense game, and I ended up going to game 3 with him as well. So I've gone to game 3, round 1 against 10-foot, round 2 against the Phoenician cluster Amaryllis burn deck, and round 3 the Lightsworn guy. I also went to game 3, and it was intense. So then after I beat him, I didn't even know. They were like, oh, like, this is it. The guy walked up to me who was my opponent. He was like, yeah, it's just me and you now. And I was like, wait, I'm in the final? And they were like, yeah. I was like, I had no idea. Like, I had no. And then so the guy who I would have played if it wasn't the guy who I ended up playing name was Kyle. And if it wasn't him, it was going to be Fitz. Fitz just won the last Deck Devastators tournament. So I ended up, he won Deck Devastators 4, because I ended up topping Deck Devastators 4, and I had to think about it. He won Deck Devastators 4 with Dragons, and he actually beat me in Swiss. He was my only loss in Swiss, actually. So I met him in person, which was really cool. Another really good player, clearly. He won a tournament this year. It's been like a month, right? Like, it's been like a month, maybe a month and a week, but since he's won. But he won a tournament a month ago, and he was the other person on the other side of the bracket if he didn't lose to Kyle, who's playing the Gemini deck. So I would have played against Fitz for the giant card if it wasn't. So this is another person that was like really good in the tournament. And there were other people too. Oh, Monster Gamer entered as well. Like Gabe, he was in the tournament as well, who's won an RBET with Blackwing. So like, and again, this isn't even everyone. Everyone in this tournament, when we looked around, was like, yo, I remember the guy who was walking us over to the section where we play, he said, there are some fucking killers in this. He was like, and I said, because I don't know a lot of these people.
Yeah, you don't, like, especially like their faces. You might know their handles.
Exactly,
online,
but they don't have
their faces.
Correct. They don't have their handles displayed on top of their heads. So I don't know these people, right? I didn't even know that Gabe, when I met him, I didn't know that he was Monster Gamer. I had no idea. When Keegan introduced me to him, I was like, hey, what's up, bro? Like, nice to meet you, or whatever. And then he let me know, like, after we were talking, like, oh, I'm actually Monster Gamer on Discord. And I was like, oh shit, I remember that name. You won a tournament. So it was like, when somebody said there are some killers, I looked around, I was like, wait a second, are there? He was like, well, yeah, you. And then he started naming the other people. And I was like, wait, that's this person, that's this person, that's this person, that's this person. And I was like, shit. But again, to me, water off a duck's back. I was already no pressuring it. I was already like, I don't really care. Like, my mental was, I just don't care if I lose, I just don't care, right? Like, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going into any game playing any worse because I don't care, but I'm just not going to care enough to let it get me down if I do have to leave Moreno Valley with nothing.
going into it with a healthy mind, which is important. Frazier mentioned a YouTube clip that we put up on the channel relatively recently, within the last like week or 2 weeks or something like that, where I forget what it's called, like the mental health of gaming or something like that, or like the importance of mental health. I don't remember exactly, but it's a conversation with Stango, myself, and Frazier, and we talk about that, and it's what Frazier's talking about now. But Stango mentions, and there's a whole podcast episode for like this entire topic, which goes into other things, but in that little 10-minute clip, Stango mentions basically when he was like the number one player in Philly in Smash Bros. Melee, winning a tournament was important because it was literally his job. When he went to a tournament, he needed to win because he needed the money to like take care of himself and take care of like his girlfriend, etc. So like when he went to tournaments, there was an immense amount of pressure on him to win. He had to win. He had to be the best. Because it's what he was doing to make money. Fast forward a bunch of years when he went to the PM Summit, which was, I think it's officially called like the Project M Theater or something. I don't remember. But when we went to PM Summit and he did awesome there. I think they won doubles. I think they got first in doubles and he did amazing in singles. The whole thing is when he was talking about how the prize, like literally none of it mattered. Of course, he's playing his best to win, but he doesn't care. He's not, if he loses, it's not going to beat him up. It's not going to ruin his weekend. When he lost, it was like, all right, cool. Like I went there, I did my best, I played my heart out, and like I lost, now I'm going to just enjoy the rest of the weekend. And it's really important to put your mindset in a place where a loss doesn't ruin your weekend.
Right.
And I want to double up on something Frazier said. It is really important to go and try to have friends, even if it's just one friend that you go to a tournament with. You need somebody there because it is not the answer, and this even goes outside of losing a tournament. It really is not the answer when you're depressed or down to be by yourself.
Yeah,
I know that's what
it's
what we all want to do, but it really isn't the answer. You want to have like a friend and go fucking eat some ice cream. I mean, even if you're on a diet, fuck it, go eat some ice cream.
Literally that.
Day. You know what I mean? Like hang out with a friend and talk some shit, and you know, like be toxic for a little. Like you can for that 10 minutes, maybe be like, you know what, fuck it. My opponent was super lucky.
Yep.
Fuck him.
If that helps you.
But afterwards, if you want to get better, you have to actually evaluate the match.
Do the work.
The point is, you know, it's not the answer to be down in the press and by yourself. Be with somebody else, get some ice cream, talk some shit, have some fun, and you know, just try to put your mindset in a place where that loss isn't going to ruin your weekend to begin with.
Okay. So that was JX89's question. I know that was very long-winded, but I think that there was a lot to unpack there because I know a lot of people feel the exact way he feels about scrubbing out of a tournament. And because I can relate clearly out by round 3, you know, I wanted to offer some real advice because I'm also a person who has topped more tournaments than 99.9% of players who've ever played Yu-Gi-Oh! So like I've been at the top of the mountain and I've been at the fucking bottom of it. I know what it feels like for both. And I know what it takes to get to the top from the bottom. And you really do have to have a strong mindset, but that takes time to develop and you really have to do the hard work. So anyway, let's move on from that. The next question comes from, and we could speed run these next two because there's only 2 and they're not really crazy. One of them is from Les Hewen Fox. I don't know if I'm saying your name right at all, but it says, any weird ruling situations where things the judges didn't seem to fit with how things should be ruled. So I guess the way this question, I don't know, the way it's typed is weird, but basically saying, were there any weird rulings that the judges got wrong? Because at Nationals, there were several rulings that they kind of messed up at Nationals. Like Sirocco, when it pumped at Nationals, they were saying that it never loses the attack because it doesn't say on the old version of Sirocco that the attack lasts until the end of the turn. And I looked it up and it doesn't say that on the old version, but like everyone knows that Sirocco's pump is not permanent. So
yeah, that's absurd. That's fucking absurd.
Kenny's like,
that's
I barely even play and I know that's like not fucking, okay.
Like, I get it. Old Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, old Wabaku was written by a fucking 2-year-old, but like, we all know how the card works. Like, let's not, like, come on.
Yeah. Okay. So that was, so that's the question. And so at Nationals, there was that Sirocco ruling. There was also an Absolute Zero one that said if Absolute Zero is returned to the extra deck while face down.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Does that mean Sirocco, if he pumps, like can he pump on top of his pump?
On the following turn, yes.
Like
if you leave like, the Sirocco survives, so the first turn it'll be 4,000 or plus every other Blackwing. Let's not forget what it really does. And on the following turn, if it's already at like, I don't know, 6K, you could pump it again and it'll now compound that too. So it could
Like, to say it doesn't lose its attack is crazy.
Yeah, it's a God card, Kenny. Like it's one of the best cards ever. And there was
Like, I just
really...
summoned fucking Sirocco, the Black Flame Wizard of Ra.
Yeah, basically that. And there was another ruling about Absolute Zero where he did activate when he left the field face down, I think was the other one. These were the two popular ones that I heard. So Absolute Zero, the way it's really worded, the way not worded, but the way it really works, the way it's correctly ruled is that if Absolute Zero leaves the field while face down, so let's say you book it and then you Caius it will not activate. That is how it really works. But at Nationals, it did. So they did get rulings wrong at Nationals. However, at RBET, because RBET and like Keegan and everything, they're allowed to acknowledge things outside of Konami. They're allowed to acknowledge EdisonFormat.com. They're allowed to acknowledge Discord and rulings that have been made for the community. That there's a whole website dedicated to just Edison rules, right? And Konami, a judge at Konami events can't go on their phone and pull up EdisonFormat.com and give you a ruling. They're not allowed to do that. But judges in other tournaments outside of Konami tournaments can do that. So nothing from what I know was ruled horribly. I didn't hear any stories, no rumor mill, nothing about terrible rulings at Moreno Valley. As far as I know, everything was ruled smoothly and correctly at this tournament. So that's one thing that you could feel confident about at RBETs, at least, is like the judges, they know what they're talking about. And if they don't, they have a whole website that tells them the answer and they can use it. Okay, so the last question is from MSW2389. He said, curious if you felt a difference in style of play or deck representation with it being on the West Coast. I always hear Cali players love their control play style. Okay, so this is a stereotype about California that I'm just going to put out there. And it's existed since I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But basically the stereotype is that Cali loves heroes. The Cali player base, they love the hero deck. The stereotype is a little bit more harsh than that, and it's very bigoted, and I'm not going to go there. But like, if you know Californians, you know predominantly like who lives in California, and that's what the real stereotype typically says. But it is true that every time I've ever gone to California in the past, when heroes were a deck that you could play, you were going to play against a good amount of it in California. That's just the reality of it. And so I knew going into this event that even if Black Wings might be the deck that typically sees the most representation in any given tournament, I knew going into this, no matter what, it's going to be heroes. And it's crazy because I said this to Keegan on the way when we were driving in that 2-hour ride to Moreno Valley. We all agree, like, yeah, it's going to be heroes. At the end of the tournament, after round 12 concluded and we had our champion, and I walked into the room that Keegan was streaming in, and I gave him a big old hug. I said, so what was the number one represented deck in the tournament? He said heroes, obviously. And I said, of course. And that was the end of that. So heroes were the most represented deck in the tournament. And I just knew that from the stereotype that I've heard over and over and over again from literally, it's not from like people outside of Cali who say that. It's when you ask a Cali local, what's your meta like here? Oh, it's all heroes. That's what they say. There's like everyone just plays it like it's a hero meta. Like you have to be ready to play against a lot of hero beat. That's just what it is, which makes Black Wings like a way worse deck because Black Wings kind of has a hard time with the hero beat deck the way it's currently built. So anyways, I knew that going into it. So to me, it wasn't really a difference in style of play or deck representation because I knew that going into it. But Frogs has a good matchup against hero beat, even though I ended up actually one of my losses was to hero beat. But Frogs does have a favorable matchup in my opinion, and not like by a grand margin because they're both S tier decks, and I'll try to make it clear all the time that like S tier decks, they beat each other. Like they all just beat each other. So the matchup is not like it's not a fucking 80-20, right? Like it's not an 80-20 matchup. It's probably like a 65-35, something like that. No, that's even too high. I would say more like 55-45. Let's do that. It's probably like 55-45 between two really good players. Anyways, so yeah, there wasn't really anything crazy. Like I didn't see, oh, there's a ton of some weird deck here. There's a ton of gadgets or something crazy. Like, no, it wasn't like that. There wasn't a ton of dragons or anything like that either. It was just a bunch of heroes. And every time I've gone to Cali and all the rumors I've always heard about Cali or have always been true, there's just a lot of hero players there for whatever reason. And so that's what it was.
Definitely was not going to be gadgets.
No. So yeah, the other thing that happened at the tournament, and I think I talked about this a little bit in my deck profile. I did a in real life deck profile. So if you haven't checked that out on a YouTube channel, what are you doing? Please go and check that out. Give it a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. That video is going crazy. Actually, I don't know why people love in real life deck profiles, but I've been begged for one for a while now, and I finally decided to do it. And yeah, the video is doing numbers. I'm really happy about that. I love seeing that you guys are supporting that, supporting our YouTube channel. But yeah, so I did that, and I talked about. I bet Keegan on Friday night. Friday night we were setting up, and it was just like 5 people because the store was closed. It was like 11 p.m. or midnight or some shit. The store was closed. There was just 5 people in there. All the TOs essentially in my black ass. So we were in there talking, and somebody was like, how long do you think it'll take for us to get out of here tomorrow? And somebody said like, oh, I think that we should be out of here by like 8 p.m. Like we should be done by 8 p.m. Now the tournament starts at 10 a.m. and it's a 12 round tournament. Okay. And it's 45-minute rounds and it's modern time rules, which means when time is called, it's end of phase and that's it. Okay. So 45 minutes, modern time rules though. Now I'm a very, very, very seasoned Yu-Gi-Oh player. I've been in this game longer than pretty much everyone that you know. I know a lot about it. I've seen it all. I've seen the best run tournaments and I've seen the worst run tournaments. RBET Moreno Valley was run very well, let's be clear. It was one of the most well-run tournaments I've been to in a long time, especially considering that there weren't that many people on staff and it still ran smoothly. 12 rounds in all. But what I do know, and what I will always know, is that Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments are notorious for not going according to plan. So when someone said that, oh, I think that we could be out of here by like 8 or 9, I was like, there's no fucking shot. I said, there's actually no shot that we'll be out of here and have a champion before 10 p.m. Keegan turned around, looked at me and said, I'll take that bet. I was like, $100? He was like, $100. I was like, you sure? $100 that we will not have 8. And I want to be clear. The rule is there has to be a champion crowned before 10 p.m. If it's 10:03 and the guy just won in the finals, I get my $100. And he was like, yep, deal. So we shook on it, right? Friday night, we shook on it that the tournament will not have a champion. And I was like, also, just to be like clear, no splitting, no like, oh, we can't finish the tournament for whatever reason, or like no weird shit, no, nothing to kind of
it's gotta be a fucking champion.
Yeah, we have a champion and it has to be legitimate. There can't be like two guys who get to the finals and they're like, oh, we don't really want to play for it. We're just going to like, I'm going to scoop to him or something. Like, no, because then at that point, it's just avoid it. So as long as the tournament progresses naturally, like every round is played, every round has a winner, a natural winner, and things like that. As long as there's no funny business, then we're good. Like I will have no problem giving $100 to you and saying I was wrong if we have a champion before 10. So we shook on it. And needless to say, strike one the next day, the day of the tournament, Saturday. Tournament's supposed to start at 10. What time do you think the tournament started, Kenny? Start time was 10 a.m. What time do you think the tournament actually started?
12 at the earliest.
Tournament started at 11 a.m. So it's an hour late.
Damn, 11?
Tournament started.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good, right?
I'm ready for it to start at 12, man.
This is what I mean.
It's early in the morning. Yep. People are supposed to be there on time, but they're not.
They definitely were not. That was part of it. People were rolling in, obviously late, because that's just what Yu-Gi-Oh players fucking do. And you want your event to have as many people as possible. Your goal is not to turn away as many people as you can. Your goal is to have as many people play in your event as possible. So you're going to keep registration open a little longer. You might run into some other problems in the meantime. So yeah, the tournament started an hour late. That's the first thing. The second thing is that every round, despite it being 45 minutes and modern time rules, every round was over an hour. Just straight up. Every round was over an hour. So if you do the math, right? If the tournament doesn't start until 11, and then every round is an hour at least, and there are 12 of them, that puts you at 11 p.m. right there. Like right there, you're at 11 p.m. Can you tell me why the Dragon Turbo player won at 11 p.m.? Like on a dot? like on the dot. Like it was 11 p.m. So needless to say, I won my money. Like as soon as I got to like 9:40, and the final match hasn't even started, and it was like 9:40. I was like, oh. They were like, everybody was like, congratulations, you have you got $100 just now. Like, it's not even a question. And I kept asking people throughout the day. I told everybody to bet. And I was like, who do you think is going to win? Like, there's this many rounds left. This is what time it is right now. And they were like, oh, no shot. You win that easy. Everyone was like, no, they were like, yeah, you definitely win. Like, no, everyone I talked to was like, oh yeah, that's like easy money. Probably the easiest 100 you ever made in your life. So I did end up winning that $100 from Keegan. And we were both really good sports about it. I love that. First of all, I love a man of his word. That's one thing. Keegan's really cool. I've gotten to know him a lot, not only from staying with him this past weekend, but just like talking to him at nationals and then talking to him on Discord and stuff like that. And the more you get to know someone, I think just the better your perception of them naturally should become, unless they're like a really bad person. I do not think that he is a really bad person. I know he gets a lot of shit and all types of stuff like that, but I genuinely don't think that Keegan is like a monster or anything like that. He does a lot for the community, and I genuinely do think that he cares about the community, like honestly. And in person, I think that everyone, including myself, we're all very different in person than we are like online. So you have to always keep that in mind too. Like a lot of us have a different persona on the internet, and that's just human nature. It just is what it is. And that's not necessarily like a dig at anyone. Like I said, I'm the same way too. Like I'm not exactly the same as I am online as I am in person. Although in some ways I am. I'm blunt, like in person and online. If you know me, you know that's just how I am. But like not everything carries over, right? So we had a great time, and I thanked him a lot for letting me stay. And we came up with a plan that because of the hurricane, we were going to go back to the Airbnb. So now it's like 1 a.m. We went to Cane's to grab some chicken real quick. That's all I ate the whole weekend. Went to Cane's to grab some chicken real quick.
You can't go wrong with it, baby.
You can't. And it was already raining.
Let me ask you this. Did you have different sides every time? Did you always have the same sides? Was it always the exact same meal, or was it one time chicken potatoes, chicken and corn?
So when we got to LAX, it was Dave's Hot Chicken, and we got chicken tenders, fries, and milkshakes. Then when it was Cane's on Saturday night, it was chicken tenders and fries. I did not get anything else besides chicken tenders and fries. And I got the kids meal, 2 tenders, small fry, and that's it. Because I did not eat the entire Saturday because the milkshake, the tenders, and the fries for me was enough to when I eat that on Friday, I was so full for the rest of the day. They ate multiple times. Like they ate multiple times. They went and got coffee in the morning and all types of wild shit. I did not eat from the time we went to Dave's Hot Chicken on Friday at like 12 p.m. I didn't eat from then until Sunday at 1 a.m. when we went to Cane's. To be clear, I drank a lot of water. I had a LaCroix because I bought a case of LaCroix when we went to Target. I got the lime LaCroix. I got that.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry to interrupt. So I think this was talked about on stream. Or not stream, podcast. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this was talked about live, but Frazier bought me a box of the lime LaCroix. He swore by it. And I told him beforehand that I don't think it's going to work for me.
Yeah.
And I tried it and it doesn't work for me.
Okay. That's fair.
I still think it's like, I'd hate like club soda or soda, whatever you want to call it, soda water. I don't fucking carbonated water. It tastes to me so bad, especially like the aftertaste. But I will say this, because I'm a cheap bastard. Like he spent his money on it. Yeah. So I didn't throw the box away. I've been drinking them.
Okay, good. I do. So you know what? When I first started drinking it, because my job has it for free in our kitchen, and our kitchen's fully stocked, and they have every flavor. So when I first started drinking it, I thought it was disgusting, Kenny. When I first started drinking LaCroix, which is sparkling water for people listening, when I first started drinking it, I was like, there's no fucking way people actually drink this because they want to. It's so nasty. And for some weird reason, despite me knowing that I didn't like it, I would keep going back to it and trying different flavors. I said, maybe that flavor was just nasty.
Yeah.
I stumbled upon the lime one, and I was like, yo, this one reminds me of Sprite, and I haven't had a Sprite in probably a decade or more. The last time I had a Sprite was McDonald's, and I haven't had McDonald's in a decade. So, because I don't believe in drinking Sprite outside of McDonald's, and you know why. If you're listening, you know why you only drink the McDonald's Sprite. Let's be real. Anyway, but this lime version of LaCroix, which is again just sparkling water, no calories, no sugar, no nothing. So it is just water. It tastes so much like Sprite. At least that initial, like when you initially crack open a cold can and you start downing that shit, you let that shit burn, that carbonation, you let it burn your throat. It reminds me of Sprite, not only the scent, but the burn of it, and like that, it does have a slight taste to it that is reminiscent of Sprite. It's not nearly as strong as Sprite, obviously, because there's no sugar in it. But it did remind me of Sprite. And when I had that, I was like, oh shit, I actually like this now. There's one that I will drink, and I've been drinking it ever since. And I like that I'm drinking it because it's still water, and all I drink is water. So it doesn't go against my dietary restrictions and stuff like that in terms of I don't like to drink calories unless I'm drinking alcohol, and I only drink alcohol on occasions with friends, which is very rare. So that's like my take on that. But
yeah, I mean, I've been drinking it, it's there. I'm not going to throw the box away. So, I cracked one open. I drank the first one, and the initial taste is fine. It's always with all the sparkling water. For me, it's always the fucking aftertaste. Like the initial taste of it's fine. Yeah. But like as soon as you swallow it and like the lingering feeling in your mouth is like so disgusting to me. Yeah. But anyway, I've drank, I don't know, like 4 of them at this point.
How many is it?
I don't drink them
12?
I don't remember. I just put them in the fridge, and every now and then, like maybe every other day. Like I'm not counting it, but like not every day, not every other day, but sometimes 2 days in a row. Sometimes anyway. But every now and then I go in there when I'm eating dinner.
I like it with food too. So what you said is key. I don't.
I only drink it with food.
Yeah, because it's kind of like a treat. It's kind of like a soda. And how you say you like to drink like juice or whatever when you have dinner, it's the same type of thing with like LaCroix. Is you want to have it with something that is flavored because it kind of can balance the fact that it is just water you're drinking at the end of the day. So I think you're doing it right at the very least, you know. But again, it's an acquired taste. Like sparkling water, I never saw myself at 30 years old fucking liking sparkling water, dog. Like it was never on my bingo card for 2023 that I would be a sparkling water enthusiast, but I am now. And I do recommend people try LaCroix lime flavor, but you need to try it freezing cold. Like it needs to be very, very cold. I've had it when it wasn't very, very cold, and sparkling water in general for me when it's not basically freezing is not very good. So there's that. Okay. Yeah. So like I was saying about Keegan, great guy. Happy so much for everything that he does for the community. Happy that he actually had me, hosted me for this event, not having to pay for like room and board or whatever, lodging while I was traveling to California, cut down the cost significantly, which made it all the more enticing to go. And then the fact that I was able to actually win the Giant Card. Side note, while I was playing in the Giant Card event, Gabe, who was eliminated and who was also my other roommate for the event, he came up to me and was like, yo, Keegan just talked to me. He said that one of us better fucking win something. So because I'm eliminated, that means that you have to win. All right, good luck, bye. And he just like walked away. And I was like, yo, what the fuck? Like, why you put all this pressure on me? Mind you, this is the tournament where I'm all like, no pressure. I'm just playing Yu-Gi-Oh! No big deal. And here comes Gabe like, yeah, so Keegan said one of us has to win something. Like, we can't just leave with nothing. And then I ended up winning the tournament, so.
It's a fucking rant.
Yeah. So I think that's everything. We're at 2 hours, and I pretty much touched on everything about Moreno Valley. I know we did have one other topic to talk about, but do you want to just table that for another podcast?
Sure.
Or do you think it will? Is it like quick, or do you want to like what do you want to?
I mean, it's not a long. It's quick, but I don't want to rush it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't want you to feel rushed either.
Like I want to rant. I want to rant for a little.
And I want to rant with you, but my energy and my voice is starting to die out a little bit. I can feel it.
So I mean, we can just talk about it some other time.
Okay, that works for me. I mean, with this episode, so normally episodes come out like a week in advance on Patreon now. That's like been our new thing where we release the episodes for Patreon first a week in advance, and then we drop them the following week for everyone else on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. But with this episode, because it's relevant and it's timely, Moreno Valley RBET just happened. So this episode is actually going to come out this Thursday. And I'm going to release it a day early. So it'll be early access to everyone listening to this on Wednesday. If you're listening to this, we've recorded it on Tuesday. It's going to be early release. Actually, I'm going to just put it up tonight. I'm going to put it up on Tuesday night. So if you're listening to this already, then you're a fiend and you can't wait for anything. But yeah, this is going to be early to everyone on our Patreon party member tier or higher. And going forward, like every normal episode that's not one that follows an event like this will just be, you'll get it a week early from everyone else, and then it'll come out for the regular people. So that's how we've been. That's a perk that we just started offering, you know, with no extra charge or anything like that. If you're on our Patreon and you're at the party member tier or higher, I already put it in Patreon that the episodes will come out a week early for you guys. So the episode that was scheduled to come out this Thursday, I'm actually just going to push that back, and it'll come out the following Thursday for everyone else. But yeah, that's how that works. And I don't think there's any other housekeeping stuff. I am going to Japan September 2nd, and I will be there for a while. So we will still be releasing podcast episodes because we have a couple recorded that we will release while I'm gone. And as for YouTube, like I'm not really sure what the plan is for that yet, to be honest. I don't know if I'm going to try to like pick a day or two to record a bunch and then have a bunch of uploads. That's easier said than done. Maybe I could do like some quick content where I just show replays and talk about them, which is probably a lot easier than actually dueling and having to edit it. If I just pull up a replay and just discuss the replay, I think that might be a little bit better of a watch, or for me as a content creator, that's a little bit easier. And I can release stuff like that while I'm in Japan, as opposed to like what I typically do, which is record a duel, edit the duel, put funny little words and shit like that. And like, there's a lot that goes into that, and it's very time consuming. And I genuinely will not have time while I'm in Japan for a while. So still thinking about what I'm going to do there. But yeah, the YouTube channel was almost at 1,800. By the time you're hearing this, it probably is at 1,800. It was at like 1,790, I think, when I looked at it earlier. We got like 20 new subscribers today, I think. So that's doing good. Help us to get to 2,000. Even if you don't really care about all the Yu-Gi-Oh content on there, if you just go over to our YouTube and you're listening to this podcast, it would really help if you subscribe. So we really appreciate that. Help us grow. We're trying to get to that nice 5K is our first big goal. So if we can get the 5K on YouTube, that'd be insane. That would be fucking insane. But yeah, so as I always say, guys, do the things that make you happy. Oh, and let me get up Patreon real quick. I almost forgot the key part here. I got to read out these Patreon members. So let me get the active Patreon people real quick. Okay. So we have on our Patreon, and thank you guys so much for the support. The episode that is exclusive to Patreon for the month of August will be dropping next week. We haven't gotten a topic yet, so if you have a topic, please give us one in the podcast suggestions channel on our Discord server. You could also just message it to us. It's also fine, but ideally just put it in podcast suggestions. That would really help. But anyways, so we have Connie, Ronathan, Leon, Stardust Dragon Assault Mode gave me PTSD. Xavier, Hylian, Dimitri Barnes, Volvi Knows a Spot in the Woods by the Cum Trees, Dominic Roberts, Giovanni Avalos, Alex Flamer, Andre Reynolds, Dan Varable, Ezica, First a Home, S. Akuma, Mitchell Naus, Midwest Gaming, William Shapiro, Dimitri Safirdas, Vince Marquette, Dallas Bailey, KJ, Doc and Ziggy, Roz Weiss, Nick Stengo, Hanso, our two-time national champion, the person who greenlit Kachan to scream every second he's on screen. Middle finger to you. That is the full name. That is a lot. That was previously Kachan as a poorly written character. So shout out to you, Vincent. Sarah Maria, Sunny Top Cut Podcast, Alex Ahern, Philip Campa, Chris Lynn, Wookie 159, MSW 2389. I always love how those two line up. I don't know why.
Yeah,
that just lines up. It just sounds so good. Kyle Batoho, Activate Mask and Restrict, Chain Royal Decree. Oh no. For people who don't know, I posted a picture on Facebook of a guy playing against frogs, and he had Mask or Restrict up, and he also had Royal Decree up. And I just walked past and stopped and backed up. I was like, what the fuck is happening right here? So, and then everyone was commenting like, yo, this picture is getting worse the more you look at it, because he also had like several traps in his graveyard. They were like, what is happening in this duel? So yeah, this name right here, Activate Mask Restrict Chain Royal Decree, really good. Sugal, Nick, Mr. Soltai, Corey Fowler, Vicky Venomon, Elijah Barfault, and then
a true hero, Tyler Tadeo, Volvi the Mega Monarch, Big Stinky, Duty Booty, Adam Corey, Enraged Peacock, Leo Bacani, Janitor 215, Bluffed Cock.
What is going on?
Why are we bluffing cocks?
I love it though. I get it, because remember I said Bluffed Fader and the guy Bluffed Knock? Now it's Bluffed Cock.
Thomas Rude, Come Treat These Nuts, Wayne Trader, Eric Chai, Finesse Kid, Tim Amaya, Owen Tedford, Jeff Strain, Veda, I'm Not a Yu-Gi-Oh Player Golfing, AB, Goat Explosion, and Brian Moon.
Man, this is it's actually crazy how many people have joined the Patreon since like, so I remember when the newest one was like Janitor 215 and like Leo Bacani. And even like when it was Thomas Rude, I remember that was like the newest Patreon member was like Thomas Rude, right? But there are so many after that now, and I am really impressed by the support. So just wanted to say again, thank you guys so much, because I'm noticing how big, like there are 65 of you. It's just, it's crazy how many people there are on the Patreon.
Better and better.
So thank you guys so much. And I hope that you did enjoy this episode. This one is a little longer, but I had a lot of fun talking about it, a lot of rants and all that good stuff. The birds came at one point, I thought I was gonna have to like kill a bird, but luckily they just fucking stopped. So anyways, as I always say, do the things that make you happy, including traveling far and wide to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and win or lose, making sure that you find a way to have a good time. That's honestly what matters more than anything. You know, just find a way to still let yourself breathe and enjoy the moment, and not just focus so much on having to win, because you literally cannot win them all.
So long, Gay Bowser.
So long, as I always say, and I'll keep you close in my arms, Gay Bowser. Catch you in the next one. Peace.